So, Ali, based on our last conversation, I had a couple of thoughts, and there was this one theme that stuck out to me, and that was that the word failure sort of kept coming out again and again. And I know we talked a lot about consistency, and we talked about how failure is sort of involved in consistency. But I think like today we should sort of have like a broader discussion on this. Is there something you want to start us off on the idea of failure?
Yeah, definitely, man. I feel failure like with anything and everything that we do, failure is always there. Like it's part of the entire equation. No action, no experience is without failure, right? And then, but I feel that how we frame failure in our life is what makes the big difference. There were even some of the events that we spoke about in the previous conversation, right? A lot of things about desire, belief, but the underlying part I feel was how we handled failure. Or yeah, so how we handled failure. I feel sorry, go ahead.
So, sorry, go on. No, I was just gonna ask you, right? Like you said like how we handle failure. So before sort of like
Mhm.
I let you continue with your thought. I just wanted to know like, is that what you consider like an important part of dealing with failure, the handling
I
part?
maybe I'll take a step back first. I think maybe I should use a better word
Okay.
rather than handling. I would say how you frame failure in your life, how you look at failure in your life, how what the word means to you in your life. I think that's the
Oh,
bigger
okay.
part of the equation because like failure is, as I said, failure is part of any experience, any action, right? So you can think of failure as separate from the experience, or you can think failure as part of the experience, right? When when I was younger, I would always think of failure as an outside thing, as other than the experience. There was the experience, and then there was failure, two separate entities, right? But as I grew older, as I matured, I understood that experience is part of failure is part of the experience itself and needs to be dealt that way. It's not separate from the experience, it's part of the experience. And I think once I started thinking of failure in that manner, it's had it's had a drastic effect on how I deal with it now. Does that make sense?
Right. So what you're saying, like it's the whole thing is just sort of like one seamless, from the beginning to the end, right? Like failure is just one of the possibilities, and you cannot see it as sort of like two separate things. It's like the same thread essentially.
Yes, exactly. So, and then as how like and in an experience how you would deal with other things, that's how you would deal with failure as well. So failure so even linguistically, like when we were kids, the word failure only had one meaning and one meaning only, that you did not make it. Right? I would assume, is that how you thought about failure when you were younger than that?
Yeah, like that's right. Like that's basically the definition, right? The universal definition that you just did not achieve something or you just did
Hmm.
not make it,
And I
right?
think that's the one that is pushed onto us. Like that's the most popular definition of it, or the meaning of it, right?
It is, yeah. It is like I think generally I think it is whenever you question someone about failure, the way they immediately frame it in their minds is that they didn't achieve a
Hmm.
desirable outcome, right? Or they didn't achieve something that let's say makes them happy about it, right? They're content with the outcome. So that's I think like how a lot of people see failure, and I also feel like failure is one of those things that. Evolves with time, like the understanding of failure evolves with time. Like it is one of those few things that you do not completely understand in one go. Like you have to fail multiple times to really appreciate the whole experience of failure, right? Because I think like the first few failures, they just sting emotionally and they just sting your ego, and you don't really learn much from it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to be exceptionally smart to be able to figure it out in the first go. Some people have that awareness to them that they look at what they did wrong, but I think a lot of people like the pain of like a negative outcome immediately turns away from turns them away from the assessment of like, well, why did this happen in the first place? And I think like this brings us sort of to this point that if you're trying to frame failure better in your life, you have to be sort of aware of like, well, why did I fail in the first place? Like, do you understand what I'm trying to convey here? Like what I'm trying to
No,
preach?
I honestly I understand, and I think you said something really valuable in this. A really key word that you used in there was the word ego. I feel
Yeah, ego I think is a big
big one
one.
with
Yeah.
failure, and I think when you're like an ego, I feel is something that only comes detachment from ego comes with maturity. For some people, it never comes, right? But for mostly when it comes to people, it comes with as they mature in life. When you're younger, you know you have ego. You know that you are, you know, in your mind, you are the one for everything in that sense, right? So again, kind of brings us back to the point of how like let's let's put it in an example, right? When there are so many things that I pursued when I was young, and so many things I failed at, and when I failed at it, I sometimes never did it again, or the biggest thing, made excuses for it, right? This is another big thing. So ego and excuses. If it's hurting your ego, you will make excuses,
Right.
right? Just because you don't want others to think that you failed, then you come up with reasons why you failed, right? And then so they kind of go hand in hand. But the day you have an ego detachment from it, I think that's where you start seeing that's when you can start reframing failure in your life. So like in my life right now, failure is nothing but feedback. Right. That's how I think of failure. I'm like, okay,
Right.
I got some feedback. It's not that I failed at this thing or I failed at that thing. I just got some feedback that this is the weak link over here, or this is something that needs to be looked at. Right. Hiding from failure is something, if you're hiding from failure, that means your ego is in place. Right. Or if you see yourself making excuses for it, you know your ego is at place. It's a tough one to swallow when somebody's telling you, hey, this is what you could have done better. You're like, oh,
Right.
but the weather was like this, or I was feeling like that. No, none of those things were
Right.
the issue. It was just that you need to go back, you need to reassess, you need to make the changes
Right.
that you need to make, and they just need to come back stronger. And then the ego part, once people start seeing that, man, this guy always comes back better, comes back better, comes back better. They already start thinking of you as somebody who is unbeatable or unbreakable, or they cannot put you down just because of how you are being right now, right? There's this this just kind of reminds me of a small clip that I watched. It was about Ronaldo. Ronaldo, in his one of his interviews, he's kind of saying that, man, penalty. He's talking about penalty kicks, and he's like, uh, there's a lot of stars or so when it's a big penalty shootout or in a very big match. Sometimes they won't take the penalty because the pressure
Right.
is so much, right? They don't want to fail. They don't want to let the team down, right? But then he uses this
Right.
phrase. He's like, Ronaldo, and he takes his name like this. Like, Ronaldo would never say no to it. Even if the first one doesn't work, and if they ask me to do a second one, I will try the second one. Even if the second one fails, and if they say Ronaldo go third time, I will go the third time. I will never say that I am not going to take a shot at it. And this is a guy saying at that stage, at a level where millions of eyes are on him, yet
Right.
he's ready to put it on the line again and again and again. And I'm very sure each time when he comes back, he does something different or something better than last time what he would do, being the guy that he is. But this is the mentality that is required, that okay, I'm not
Right.
gonna shy away from my failure. The day you shy away from your failure, the growth part is done.
Right.
Then you've sealed the envelope, right? Hey, I shied away from it. I'm not gonna try it again. Done.
Right.
You seal the envelope. Now actually you failed in that sense, right?
Right. So this is a very interesting perspective for me because like the way I have experienced failure for me has always been more on the sort of like emotional side. So when I say emotional, for me it's never been about the ego. Like I've never really cared about how people see my failure. For me it's always been the pain of failure that stops me from doing something again or like trying something again, because I think like sometimes the negative experiences can be really really harsh, right? And or like the impact of a failure can last a little while, especially something where you've sunk a lot of time and effort into, and you're hoping, well, not hoping, and your strategy is that it needs to succeed up to a certain point so I can continue working on this. But if it even doesn't get to that first point and you failed, like, it stings for a very, very long time. And I think, like, I always have this thought in my head whenever I start something. And it also sort of acts as a system of checks and balances, because I think to myself, like, what is the amount of pain that I'm willing to take? And what is that point where the pain becomes too much? And the reason why I say this is because it tells me, like, how much of a failure can I take? Because I think there is a limit to failure as well. Because again, when people say failure, they don't really define the scope of failure. They just define, like, well, you just didn't achieve something, right? And this is one of the things that I believe also holds back a lot of people, because they talk about failure, like what it does to them. It's usually, it's very easy to extract that sort of, like, reason that people don't want to commit to something because they're afraid that, well, I might lose the house, or I might not have any money to survive, or whatever it may be. But to get to the depth, like whether it's an ego problem or if they are just uncomfortable dealing with the pain, I think that is usually very difficult, because no one wants to admit either of these things, right? If I was to ask you, because you spoke at length about the ego factor of failure, would you say that it was something that was easy for you to admit, or would you say that you had to experience failure repeatedly or a few times in your life before you became more in tune with, well, this is how this works actually?
Man, honestly, now that you bring up the points about, uh, when you involve money and time and, losing this and when you bring in the loss part, that changes the entire scope of, how, like, because again,
Right,
it's really easy to talk like, hey, why don't you just keep at it, right? Bro, how can I keep at it when, when this is at stake, or when that is at stake, when things are not, I need things to work out tomorrow, sometimes it's that urgency behind things, right? So
right,
I feel the
right.
expectations always need to be in line, right? Then even failure, like even then the idea of failure becomes different. If I tell you, man, that I need to get this thing done tomorrow, right? And it's something that requires has taken people years to do, let's say, right? Then I
Right.
am setting myself up for failure. There is no denying that, right? So having clear expectations meant that this task, if I was to take up this task, it would require a couple of years of growth, right? It would require this much time for it to start showing fruit, right? I cannot plant a seed today and expect it to, give me fruit tomorrow. If that is my expectation,
Yeah, blossom
yeah,
into a full
then I
tree.
am
Right,
setting up myself for failure. That's a given then. And we do that to ourselves
right.
all the time, right? We do it all the time. So honestly, then that kind of brings us to a bigger, broader topic, and I don't know, like maybe we should get into a little bit that setting these expectations and having this balance in life, as you said, that man, what if this doesn't work out, then I lose this, then have then work it out in a way that it gives you the time to make this better while you still keep something from the past with you that helps you in the present. You see what I'm trying to say? Like, hmm,
Right, like a little safety net so you can
yeah,
push
so like
further.
because even not having like if you need things to like if you need some things to grow in a certain field, whether we talk about workout, you need weights, whether we talk about reading books, you need books. Everything requires something to grow, right?
Right.
And if you cannot have access to those things, right, then how will you grow, right? And to have access of those things, you need something coming in, something already working for you, right? So like dark period in taking upon something is inevitable. The sooner you understand this, the the easier the trip becomes, regardless of how successful you might be, right? If you take up
Right.
something new, you know that there will be a dip in the curve. There will be a dip in the curve. There is
Yeah.
no ifs or buts about it. Something that you were doing is going to slack because now you're giving time to something new, right? So And the worst is when both dips happen at the same time, when you fail at the newer thing and when the old thing that you had that was working also takes a dip. That's where people break,
Right.
right? That's where a lot of people break.
Right.
But the understanding is that this is inevitable. This is part of the equation. This is part of the experience. Like growth growth is like it's a straight line, right? You have to experience everything that comes on the way. There's no dodging, there's no shortcuts. It's just like whatever comes in order to move forward, you have to experience even these dips that we're talking about. I'm very sure every entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
right? Nobody thinks of something and tomorrow they're like, I did it. It takes the dark period is a very, very big probability of happening when you take up on something new, even if it's something easy, it's still a part of it. And the bigger the thing, the bigger the darker period, and the bigger strength you need to overcome that. But if you already know that, if you've planned before that, then I know, man, these times will come and I will try to manage it this way and that way, then things become a little bit easier, right? So I know we digressed a little bit from the
Right.
failure to the planning and to having proper expectations, but that is a requirement of, uh, and why not give it a good example, Noman? Why not talk about a little bit of our journeys about stock investments and trading, right? What did we, right?
Oh yeah, that's always very interesting. But I wanted
Say,
to
say.
add something to sort of, well, not really add something to, but just sort of follow up because you mentioned this
Hmm.
dark period, right? And I think like this is one of the things that people mistake for failure, because when you're building something or you're working towards something, there comes this phase that there's a lot of struggle in that phase. There's a lot of like issues in that phase. There are a lot of things that you suddenly discover or you suddenly realize are wrong. And I feel like most people are quick to immediately label that as failure, without realizing that now they're actually deep into what they're working towards, and now they're seeing under the hood. Before it was just sort of like shining the car on the outside, which is easy, it looks pretty shiny. Now you open up the hood and you see the oil stains, the grease stains, and you're trying to work through these problems, but you can't let it take away from all the work you've already done, right? This is also work that needs to be done, and I think it's a very important part of every journey that a lot of people miss. And this is a period of what I believe a lot of people incorrectly label as failure after failure after failure. I think it's just part of the journey. But sort of like coming back to your point, where talking about stocks, I think in my opinion, that has been for me personally the greatest sort of teacher of failure. I don't think, like, I mean, having done so many different things in my life, having tried so many different things in my life, and having failed at so many different things, I think the most I have ever learned about failure, the most I have ever taken away about failure has been through like investing. I think it teaches you things not just about sort of like how you as a person perceive failure, but how you as a person have the potential to evolve and handle failure. Am I making sense by saying
No,
those
I,
two
I
things,
honestly,
Ali?
I agree. And just adding another aspect to it that within this investing part, and so you know that the market or the stock is not intentionally
Yeah,
trying to hurt you or
yeah,
trying to give you a loss or a profit. It's that thing is neutral. It's all you, right? All the emotions that you're
yeah.
feeling, because it's not even talking to you, right? It's just something on the screen, like numbers moving up and down.
It
He
literally,
doesn't,
that's what it
stock
is.
doesn't know you, the market doesn't know you, right? Yet you have such things attached to it, like, emotions, feeling of disappointment, feelings of failure, even though it's just doing its thing. And if you understood it better, you would be able to move with its frequency or with its rhythm, or there would be a better dance, right? You just haven't learned the dance yet. And then, but these things do come out of you, right? Like and I'm just gonna take a step back, Noman. Before we were talking about ego and frustrations and things like and those things in play. I just want to kind of give an example of like because I think a lot of people go through this like games. Let's say could be Xbox, PlayStation, or just any game,
Right.
right? When you start a game, right? Do you from day one reach from level to level 50? kind of know, right? It takes,
No,
right?
that's a grind.
You
Yeah,
in the
no.
game you die 1,000 times, right? But then you keep trying. A frustration period comes, but then you try something different, and then you go to the next level. Then you die at that level, right? But yet you keep going because the experience is fun. You know, you know what you're trying to do. You know that the end goal is achievable, right? You know other players have
Right,
reached that far, right? And
right,
you know that nobody's judging you, right? There's no ego
right,
involved, right? So I
right.
think that's a good example of how one can think about it, right? That having clear expectations, having a
I
strategy behind it, and not having ego, and of course, people not, like, hmm,
yeah. I think, I think one of the things also about like video games is that because there's no cost associated with it when you
hmm,
lose and then you start again, technically,
true.
right? Like, yeah, you lost some in game items and gold, whatever, but you didn't
Hmm,
lose your
hmm,
life, right? Like, you can just go back to it, right? Like, your life is not going to be miserable if you're suffering in a game. So, I think that's one big aspect of like why people also do it again. But I kind of want to talk to you about the
hmm,
strategy part. So, you talked about like adjusting the strategy. So I remember like when I started trading and I was learning my way through like options and figuring out what indicators work best, and you fail again and again in the simulations like a
hmm,
thousand times. Like life never goes like it is in the simulations. But I remember one day like I had another failed strategy, and that is when sort of like I realized that the way I need to look at failure is a bit more specific, rather than in broad senses, as we discovered, sort of as we discussed in the beginning. So now the way I define failure, which sort of like also you mentioned, is that it is the result of a strategy that did not work,
hmm.
right? It doesn't anywhere, it does not like in any of this, like any part of this sentence, it doesn't imply in anywhere that I didn't achieve the outcome because the outcome wasn't destined for me. It's I just used the wrong strategy, so it took me away from the outcome, right? Like if I had done maybe the opposite, or if I had just stayed and not become greedy or come out at the right time, I would have achieved the outcome, right? So all of these sort of possibilities, but the strategy that I had created didn't work, and that sort of like helped me understand that I can take that same principle and I can apply it by asking myself this question. And I do this a lot now. Like I'm not ashamed to admit that this isn't something that I've been doing like for many years. This is very recent, to be honest. I think less than a year old now, where, and I don't do it as often, but still I try, if I remember, it is to ask myself the question that what I'm about to do, what is the possibility of a failure here, right? Like, am I missing something in here that could prevent the scale from shifting extremely strongly towards the failure side? And I find more often than not, it helps me question that, am I just doing this because I'm excited that I see something really quickly? Can I explain to myself that why am I doing this? And when I struggle to answer any of these questions, usually for me, it is to adjust my strategy. And this has significantly sort of like improved my win rate. It has significantly improved me identifying potential securities. So this was one of the biggest lessons in failure, is to sort of like ask that big question, right? Ask the right questions and ask the big questions, and assess like what is the possibility. Do you consider that to be sane by
No, no,
any
honestly,
means?
okay. Let me point something amazing that you said, and tell me
Sure,
and tell me if this extension makes sense. Okay, you said that
sure.
the strategy did not work. Okay, this was a sentence.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna add two words to it. Okay,
right.
the strategy did not work for you.
Okay,
So
interesting.
I think failure is also very personalized, right? Uh, a success routine or might not work for you, but might work for somebody else, right? A routine that helps you, or like, so I feel like let's put it this way. There are mentors, there are motivational speakers or so, right? But let's say a mentor or a motivational speaker does not talk to each of his client, does not speak to each of his client in the same tone or with the same words or with the same strategy. To each he kind of, customizes how to invoke this part in him, how to make him understand this thing. Maybe this thing doesn't work for him, but maybe this methodology will work better for this person, knowing how the person is, right? So in a way, failure is also very personalized in that sense. Like when you talk about strategies, there are so many strategies out there. Like when you talk about indicators, let's say, right? Why some indicators work better for you, but at the same time, some indicators work better for other people. Indicator,
That's very good. Yeah, that's
right?
you've raised a very
Because
good point here,
indicator is the
right? Like,
same.
okay,
So understanding yourself is also a very big part of personalized the personalization of failure. What is failure to
right,
me, not to that person, right? For somebody, example, for somebody a 70% win rate is success, but for you it's not, right?
right,
So
right.
also having the understanding of having proper expectations of things and knowing yourself, or knowing this is what I do better. Let's go back to the exercise point of the thing, right? For some people, more reps work better. For some people, heavy lifting work better, right? So so
Right.
the success came from different, or failure or success came from different way of looking at it, personalized to you, right? So I think this is also a big part of the equation, that knowing like, of course, whatever capabilities you don't have, you can get and you can refine, but the best is what is natural to you
Right.
is the best thing to work on in that sense, right? This comes easy to me. Why not just do it and refine this rather than learn something brand new? Like mimicking is the worst way of success, is the most difficult way of success, I would say, right? Because
Right. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Mimicking is like I think, there's ways you can
Mhm.
make mimicking work, but it doesn't work for everybody. I think like, it pretty much guarantees failure. But I like the idea of you adding, the how personal it also is supposed to be, which is actually a pretty good point because that indicator example is a really good one. Yes, you're absolutely right. Because I know that there are certain indicators that I have tried to use. I know that they're successful indicators because there's a large percentage of people that find success with them. And I have struggled with them, and I cannot seem to explain why I've struggled with them. Um, I've come to many, many conclusions, but it does make sense that some things are just not for you, right? That some things you just don't force. There's no reason to force them. Like they're just not going to work for you. And this is something that I feel most people don't realize. I feel that most people they rather process this on an emotional level because I don't think anybody likes to lose,
Mhm.
right? So that judgment part of that logic part of your brain kind of shuts down, right? Because if I was to ask you, whenever you have experienced failure, right? Like, do you take it personally, or have you become completely
No,
immune to
I
it
think
now?
I think the very first response is like these days it's getting better, but initially the first
Right.
response is very personal, right? Yeah. Hmm.
Right. Yeah. I find that even after so many years of like journaling about these things, writing about like failure, experiencing failure, you think it gets easy. I think like, it doesn't change. I think it's a new experience every single time. Like it's a new experience. Like it always feels different. It never feels the same. That's the one thing that gets me about failure is that it never ever feels the same. Every single time it just hits you differently, and it finds a way to like either bring you down, keep you down, or make you feel less than in just one new unique way. And overcoming that, it's a great exercise because you're constantly building this muscle with new challenges. But it's I find that if you're the kind of person that can take the pain, or at least handle the pain, the kind of things that failure can teach you, I don't think like there are many other life experiences out there that have that same quality of knowledge, right? Would
No,
you
no, bro.
disagree with me
I
on this
feel
one
more
if I
lessons
was
are
to say?
learned in failure than are learned in winning, to be honest with you, right?
Right,
Winning, like everything behind every result, there's a deliberate action that if it was corrected would have a different result, right? So this is like a
right,
very honestly, this statement is something uh, that the audience will like people would hear from me again and again because I really, really, really believe this, believe this statement, and I think it's a very big part of me is that for something to change, something needs to change, right? I like, and that's what it is. That if I want something to change, I have to change some. I have to change something. I cannot do the same thing over and over again, over and over again. And then remember, like, just to kind of make it a little bit visual. I cannot go into an elevator and press the third floor button and expect the elevator to open on the fourth floor just by luck, right? Yeah, luck. It might be a malfunction someday that it happens, but then I never learned anything, or it was just a one off, right? But so in order to have a different result, if something different needs to be done, and this is the kind of understanding people need to come to, that okay, I failed. That means the failure just exposed a weak link, right? Or failure just expose something that still requires a little bit work or a little bit polishing. Why don't I do this and get
right.
back to it? Why don't I do this and get back to it? And then there will be a time and a day where, like, uh, and honestly, there will be a time and a day when things will work out the way you expect them to. And when that happens, then now humans being human, you want to go now to the next step, right? Then that
Right,
means you're gonna experience failure again, right? So failure
right,
is like it's attached to you. There is no running away from it. And if you're running away from it, that's how, like, if you're pushing failure away, then we're talking
uh-huh,
drugs, right? Then we're talking so many ways to avoid
right,
this, this part of you. The more you accept it, because
right.
I don't think anybody has a life without any failures. I don't think so. There's
No, no. I think failures is one of those things that, sort of like starts as soon as you're born. You go through failure every single day, and I think, like, there's this something I kind of want to like dive a bit deeper into, because you said that failure is something that, like, no one in life does not experience failure. Everybody experiences failure. So I kind of wanted to like, focus on this aspect for a bit, is that how we perceive failure, how we deal with failure in our adult life. I think a lot of that response, the uncorrected response, if I will, is built in childhood. How we are taught to handle failure, how we're treated when we fail at something, right? I think that response to failure is built in childhood. Because, for example, if you come from any Asian household, and let's say you fail at like a math test or a science test or whatever it may be, right? In the eyes of your parents, you failed, and they're not going to go easy on you. They don't sit down and ask you like, well, what difficulties did you face, right? The language is very different. The language is more colorful, and it makes you feel less than. And so this pain of failure builds inside of you, that you sort of want to avoid it as much as possible. And I think a lot of people carry this response into their adulthood, and it affects the way they handle failure as they go through life. Like, what has been, if if we're going to talk about this, I think it's worth exploring like our personal experiences with failure. Like, what has been your like childhood experience with failure? I think, let me phrase it in a better way, Ali. If I was to ask you, your childhood experience with failure versus how you experience failure right now, would you say that there has been a dramatic shift? As in, like, you look at it and be like, yeah, those are two entirely different worlds. They're not compatible in any way.
Okay. I'm gonna share a quick story with you, Numan, and I want to help you break it
Sure.
down for me a little bit. Okay. So we're just gonna break it down.
Okay, go
It's
for it.
it's of course it's related to what we are speaking about, but this is the first story that comes to mind. I'm just gonna share it with you. Um, when I was doing my O levels, um, at that time I had this subject called ad maths. Yeah, ad maths. Okay. So I used to
Okay.
I had a teacher in school, and then I had a private tutor. Okay. The private in the private tutor's story to my parents were was that, man, Ali is so good at ad maths. He really knows how to solve problems, really how to approach it. He does so good over here. My teacher in school had a complete opposite things to say. He doesn't understand math. He's not doing good at math. My tuition teacher failed to understand that how come this kid can solve this, he can do so well over here, but when he goes and sits in front of that person or in that class, he doesn't perform. And I felt that too, man. I was like, Mom, I don't know why. I can really perform at the tuition center, but I cannot perform in class. It's the same. Everything's the same. I don't know. I don't know. Something happens. I never know what. Of course, at that point in time, I wasn't the thinker that I am today in that sense. But now that I look back at it, I'm trying to break it down. That what was, and let me tell you this, that the teacher who was teaching me at the private tuition, she was always so encouraging. From day one, she treated me good, like, you got
Right.
this. You know this, Ali. You can solve this. This is the way it's done. Okay, now you got it. Let's practice it again. Oh my God, you were able to do this. This is so amazing. I'm going to call your parents, let them know that you were able to do it yourself today. That's so amazing. Whereas that other professor, he knew me outside of my classroom before. He knew me as a little bit of the guy with that sort of a group, with a little bit of a, not the most studious child. Let's put it this way. So he
Right.
always had that kind of
Right.
perception
Right.
towards me, that this kid, always the mischievous Ali, let's say, right? And that completely changed what my results were, Noman. Does that? I'm not saying if you could relate to that, but do you see something in that?
No, I 100% see something. This is a very, very important conversation because number one, the subject you also picked is, in my opinion, one of the most common ones when it comes to failure because a lot of people are terrible at math, right? And math is one of those things that is not taught properly at school. It's not handled well, I think, even at, the home level. And I've had similar experiences where like I was good in a certain subject up to a certain point in life, and then this one person came along and decided that we need to take away all encouragement and we need to bring the stake and punish for every small failure. And it sort of like builds inside of your head. First you struggle, you try and do your best to succeed, but that whole fear of like failing and being punished for it, you start making silly mistakes. You don't learn anything. You're constantly stressed, constantly anxious about a negative outcome, and you're trying to do everything to avoid it. So it creates this association in your head. And I yes, I have experienced it, and you're absolutely right. I think like, you're sort of like, this is that argument, Ali, nature versus nurture, right? Right. So how you nurture people for this experience, I think, plays an impressive role in how people handle it in their adult life. And a lot of people would not be wasting their time learning about failure, how to handle failure, if we'd just done a good job when we were children, right? I want to give you one example, like, because this is a very important topic to me, like failure. So I have had this goal since, I would say, close to 2019 early, and I have the book, right? So I did a pretty bad job in math after like 7th 8th grade. Up until 7th grade I was like really damn good. I knew what to do in math. I didn't have a lot of trouble, just the usual challenges. But 7th grade onwards, I had a horrible math teacher, and then I just constantly failed. And so I said to myself that one day, like, I'm going to teach myself math. If I have to start from the basics all over again, I'm going to do it because I just want to learn. I find it a fascinating subject. So I bought this book, and it teaches you everything about math from like the basics to advanced level. So they say you could get up to like a full university level. Well, not university, like the first 2 years of university level education for math. And I have been trying to do this since 2019. I haven't gotten past, I would say, the first 5 6 pages, but every like few months I try again, and then I fail after 5 6 pages, and then I just kind of like just toss it away, and then it sits, gathers dust, and then I look at it again, and then I get, passionate about it, and I'm like, yeah, I can do this. Like, it's going to be a little difficult, it's going to be hard, but there's YouTube and I can learn, and then I'll fail again. And it happened so many times. I remember that I started journaling about it. Like I literally journal about why I fail at reading a book that I paid $60 for, and it helped me understand better that literally 90% of the time it's my fear of my past failures and how they were treated. And like my brain is sort of like ruminating about past failures, past experiences, so I am unable to focus on what's in front of me. I am unable to create a clear strategy on how to approach the problem this time round, because I am doing the same thing again and again. Like, what am I doing? I'm literally sitting down, pen and paper on one side and a book in front of me, and I'm like, yes, I'm going to do math. And I've done the same strategy every time I failed. I have changed nothing about this. That's how I go into this. You'd think that I would have learned something by now, but I haven't. But this year something different happened. I finally decided to sort of look at this from a different perspective, try to take the emotion out of the way. You'll notice me talk a lot about emotion because failure for me is a very emotional thing, rather than like, an ego thing. Like, I don't like the pain of failure. It really bothers me and it turns me away from a lot of things. But I this time round I asked better questions about why I was failing at it. So I approached the problem from a very different sort of angle, where I decided that I'm just going to start watching a couple of YouTube videos on like basic math, right? Like whether it's basic geometry or trigonometry or whatever it is. And I'm just going to build from there, because I just have to sit and listen. And there's so many good tutorials out there. And I noticed that it had a different kind of impact on me because there was no outcome that was required. I wasn't hoping to learn anything. I wasn't hoping to complete some sort of unit. I was just hoping to sit there and just watch this 15-minute video. And I did. And I felt pretty good about it. And I actually retained something. So it's that sort of like tying back into how you frame failure,
Mm-hmm.
right? We talked about earlier. So there's a bit of framing, and there's a bit of like emotional reprocessing, and there's a bit of like, that childhood history that has followed you, and then you have to sort of like set it aside, be like, your time is done. So there's a lot of these complex details that I think people don't really realize, because uh, we don't always have our full awareness with us, and it takes repeated experiences trying to do something to shift that awareness in that direction, and then start asking better questions. It took me like almost 5 years to ask a better question, like maybe there should be a better way of doing this so I don't fail at it again. Am I
No,
making sense here, Ali? Like,
no,
could
I
you?
honestly, I think this is what the center of everything is, that if doing the same thing
Right,
repeatedly over and over again, right? Like, let's bring it
right,
back to the math equation. If you're solving the math equation, you know that once that your approach gave you a wrong answer, okay? But you solve it with the same formula again and again. Do you think something's going to change other than other than your frustration
right.
level, right?
Yeah, it's such a good question to ask too, right? Like, and I think like Ali,
Mm.
just to like,
Mhm.
I'll let you carry on, but just to point on this one, is that people just know this saying that trying the same thing over and over again, but I don't think most people even understand like what it's trying to communicate here, because that's how oblivious some people have become to this. But anyway, sorry, carry
And
on your
let me just
thought.
talk a little bit more on what you said, right? Because this idea that, hey, keep trying and it will work out, like, it's like just the understanding of certain situations, how they would say that, uh oh, if water keeps hitting rock at the same spot over and over again, there will be a day when it's going to cut through the rock, right? Just giving example, right? And then that's
Right,
how,
yeah.
right,
Erosion
erosion,
basically,
let's
yeah.
say, and then people would take this to heart. okay, if I keep doing the same thing again and again and again and again, there will be a day when I will, you know, I will be able to cut through it as well. But that analogy is so different from our life, right? Because honestly, these are the analogies that I was given when I was a kid, right? Keep trying. There will be a day when you will break through. But what about all the 100 factors that we're speaking about right now that also, that the approach like over the, like people draw resemblance, or they kind of, it's not a mirror. Let me put it this way. That's a rock and water example, and this is life. You see what I'm trying to say? Some people just take these things to heart, right? Without thinking it through that, am I drawing contrast with the right example? Because that's how it,
Right. They
hmm,
think that, yeah, some examples are
true,
universal, is what
but
they
it's
think,
not.
right? Like, that's the
No,
mistake that
the,
people make. Yeah,
right?
you're
So
absolutely right.
to understand that, man, you have to change. Like even with, honestly, even with that example, even with the water rock example, so I can think of 1,000 things right now. The temperature changes over time, the point of interaction changes over time, things decay, things this, like so many things that I can now think of. But in that point in time, you just think of one thing. Oh, keep butting your head against it, and someday it will crack, right? That I don't think that's the way about it,
Yeah,
right?
that's not the way, right? Like, you've done damage to yourself too, in this one. It's such an interesting phenomenon because, like, I think like even the world's understanding of failure has evolved
Hmm.
significantly, right? Like, there's this one concept that I'm exploring right now. It's a very interesting one, and I'm like, journaling about it, and I've been thinking, and it's on failure, by the way. You might
Hmm.
find it very interesting too. I don't know. So, it actually happened because I had a conversation with someone over like lunch or dinner or something, and it was just a random conversation. And one thing they said to me is that failure also is like different based on the resources you have,
Okay.
right? So for example, like, let's say you have a strategy and your strategy says, like, I have to get 800 customers if I spend $1,000, right? And let's say that this is a guarantee. If you spend $1,000, you get
Hmm.
800 customers. And if you have $1,000, you can do it. But if you don't have $1,000, have you necessarily failed?
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
You
Hmm.
see what I'm saying, right? So for some people, it's like overcoming failure is also a cost. There's higher odds of success in starting a business if you have more resources available to you, if you have larger savings, if you have access to the right network of people, if you have, even a half decentish idea that is not a copy of something that already exists, will have better odds of success out in the real market, right? And a lot of people don't realize this because everybody is trying to do that universal path to success, and it doesn't work out and they fail because they don't take into account that maybe I don't have the same access to resources. Maybe I don't have the same access to the network. I tried to copy something that just would not work for me, right? And it's interesting because I am guilty of this. Like, I am genuinely guilty of this. I remember when, these what do you call, these faceless
Hmm.
YouTube channels were becoming
Hmm.
really popular. So I caught the wave when, like, it was less than a few
Hmm.
hundred channels, right? I got lucky. I don't know how I ended up on some sort of like Discord page or forum or whatever it was, and people were talking about it, and they're like, this is the next big thing, just spam videos of clips and
Hmm.
whatnot. And I wanted to do it. And I was like, yo, this is easy money. I don't have to show my face. And this is, we're talking like back in the day, like this is pre 20, 15, 2016 type of era. And so I spent days, maybe weeks, like reading everything about faceless YouTube channels, reading everything about like where they were finding success. I paid for subscriptions that, basically would find a YouTube video that was a faceless YouTube channel, and then it would give me the tags and the hashtags. And man, I sat down, I created this strategy, which was basically a carbon copy of what all these channels were doing, right? I had not even the editing style was copied. Like, I did nothing of my own. Like, maybe the only like uniqueness in the channel was the name that I had picked, which I don't
Uh-huh.
even remember right now. Like that,
Uh-huh.
you see
Uh-huh.
how forgettable it was. Like, so the name that I had picked, and sort of like even the description. Like I spent hours making sure I had the same amount of keywords that every other channel had, because I wanted to
Mhm.
succeed. I wanted to make money. That was my goal was, and it didn't succeed. It didn't work out. It failed miserably, and like I could not understand why it failed. In my head, I was running the idea again and again. I did the exact same thing that everybody else did. Why didn't I succeed? I went through the whole cycle, the whole spectrum of like accusations, blames, like these people are racist. That's why they don't
Mhm.
like me, and I'm not even speaking in the video. I'm not even in the video, but somehow I have assumed that everybody's just
Mhm.
racist. so 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 that's like one of those things that
Mhm.
I remember revisiting later in life, and I realized that I failed because not only was there zero, like not even 1% of me in that idea, in that venture, but it was something that was like me trying to force a formula that I also didn't completely understand. I was just literally like, one of those drawings you get where like you put a sheet on top and you can stencil it out. You
Mhm.
know what I'm talking about? Like that's like, you can make carbon copies millions of times. Doesn't mean you're going to become good at drawing. Right? Like I can sit and like use a transparent sheet of paper and like look at the outlines and then fill it in later. But that's sort of one of the things that I realized with like ways to guarantee yourself failure is to put yourself in a position where the strategy you have created you don't even understand. It's just like, well, yeah, I know the
I
steps,
man, that's such
right?
a there's so much in this the story that you said,
Right.
I feel, let me let me address the first thing that you said. Okay, you were talking about
Sure.
the resources part, right? Having resources, I don't think that guarantees, in my mind, that doesn't guarantee success as well. Just giving you a small example. Throughout my throughout my university life, and even after that, even the apartments that I lived in, the buildings and stuff, I always had a gym, and I always wanted to be fit, but I was never fit when the gym was next to me. I only have a dumbbell.
Right.
I only have like a rod with one of the bar rod thingies, right? With six to seven weights on each side, which I can kind of change how what depending on the exercise. But that's all I have is a bar. I'm fitter uh, and more muscular than ever, and this is only at home. Before I had all the resources, I had all the machines around me. But it wasn't about that. It wasn't about the resources because some people have the resources, yet it doesn't work. Yet they get too complacent. Yet they're like, okay, since I have everything and it is doable easily, maybe I'll just do it tomorrow, right? So sometimes resources kind of work. It's not always about resources. It's about you. I feel that, uh, and with your example, that if somebody has something and if other person figures out that, man, I need to have this in order to get to my final thing, I need this is what I need first. Then the goal becomes to get the first thing first and the second thing second, right? You need to understand what's the system, right? Or what's the structure? What comes first? What comes second? What comes third? You cannot directly get the third thing without getting the first and the second, right? So this idea as well of the resources is, I feel, is like there are like right.
It's a it's a very good point you raise. You're absolutely right, and I love your gym example.
Hmm.
I just want to pull that apart for a second because it's such a good example where you said that you had access to a resource that could help you get better, but you didn't use it, right? Which I think like is helping me put into perspective that there are certain things I avoid in life because I tell myself that I don't have the resources for it,
Hmm.
right? And now I'm trying to think, like, I think like this might be a good question to ask you. Why do you think that, with a resource facing you, available to you, that you're just like, oh, I don't want to use it, I don't want to do
And
this?
honestly, you just didn't want it enough. I'll be honest with you. Whatever you don't, what I'll be, if a person is very honest with themselves, right? And this takes a
Right.
lot of courage. If you don't have something or if you
Right.
failed at something, you can you can in my mind you can say that you did not want it enough. And that hurts you when you say that out because you're telling yourself that I mean I wanted it, that's why I started it, right? But then since you don't have it, you don't want it enough. Like why am I successful now just with one dumbbell at home, which even started without with and I still feel that even if I didn't have uh this weight bar at home, I think if I wanted to, I could have done the same with just push-ups and squats and just free weights, right? Or just body weight. I feel I could have done it. I've seen multiple people do it. I know people who have done it. So it's not that they had the research, it's just that they wanted to do it. So some people might disagree, but what you don't have right now is because you didn't want it enough. If you wanted it enough, you really would have you would have uh you you would have tasted it. I'm not saying you would have had it forever because that happens, but at least
Right.
you would have been very close to it in that sense, right? Because then of course so many other places, so many other things come in place, right? Like not every just give let me give an example. Not every athlete putting in the work gets to become a superstar, right? But they do get to become a
Right.
good athlete, right? That's a given in that sense, right? So there,
Right.
of course, there are other factors in play, but what you don't, but taking things like let me just make it smaller. If you wanted a better body and if you don't have it, that means you didn't want it enough because you could do it without any resource, Numan. Wouldn't you agree? It's Earth. You could walk outside, you could run,
100%.
you could,
Yeah.
right? So same
100%.
thing goes with let's say weight loss. Oh man, I've never been able to lose weight because inside of you ask yourself because you really didn't want to like you want to from the outside, right? But the
Right.
inside hasn't connected with that, or else you would not have put that you would not have bought that cake, you would have not taken that bite, you would
Right.
have done what needs to be done, but since you didn't, then I'm sorry, it's going to hurt you, but I'm going to say it, you did not want it enough. You did not.
That's very, yeah, it's very interesting you say you did not want something enough because I've heard this a lot, right? When someone fails and they'll say, well, or they'll say, like, well, I did not want this enough. That's why I failed. And personally, for me, I've always had trouble understanding the concept of wanting
Hmm.
something enough, right? Like, I have tried to connect it with the concept of belief that, if I believe in something or an outcome, then I must want it really,
Hmm.
really badly. I don't know, maybe I'm confusing the two, maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but it's a topic that I've explored extensively. One thing I feel like is worth asking right here, because it's a very elegant concept to me, wanting something enough. Do you think like it, in your opinion, plays a big role in failure?
Wanting it enough.
Yeah, wanting something enough. Like, if you don't want something enough, you are bound to see failure. Do
Like
you think?
I'll be
Do you
no,
think that has a role?
so this kind of brings me to the second point that you were saying was about mimicry, Naman, right? About like
Right.
people do find success in mimicking exactly what has been done. They mimic it, they do it, but like I think like this idea of failure,
Right.
like even just for a moment, this idea of success, and I'll be very honest with you, there have been things that there have been things that I did achieve, okay, that because somebody else achieved it, I got the formula, I achieved it, but they still have it, and I don't have it now because I stopped doing it because it wasn't me, it was them. I didn't want I knew how to get this, but it's not, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I myself want that, right? Like let's take your
Right.
YouTube faceless thing, right? You let it go,
Right.
right?
I did, yes.
If you really wanted, if you were obsessed with it, right? And if it was, especially if it was in line with your values, with what you want in life, with the message that you want to put out there, right? Like, because in this entire conversation, you never spoke about, hey, I wanted to put this message out there. You didn't even say it once. All you said was, I wanted a faceless channel. That's all you said, right? So
Yeah. because yeah,
Right,
because I wanted
and
money,
that
and
you're right, and that already tells me so much about that equation. I
right,
right.
yeah,
I know that he's not going to pursue this lifelong or for a very long time because
yeah,
I don't see any attachment or anything that's coming from within, right? There is no, right? Because there are
right,
people who find success and happiness, because success and happiness kind of go in hand too, in a way, right? Some people are so happy doing the craft that they have, they don't think about the millions and the trillions. They're just happy doing what they're doing because they know what they're doing is something that they wanted to do. So even success, in my mind, success is something that you wanted to do, and you're being, and you get to do it. It doesn't have to be like the money, like people always attach money to success, right? I think money is a result of
right,
success, right? Yes, that does happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes people are very happy doing the things that they're doing and that there's no money involved. Some people love doing charity stuff even though they're not super well off. Uh, some athletes love the sport even though they never become superstars, but they're happy because they get to play the sport that that they love, or the thing
yeah.
that they do every day. I so sorry, what did you ask me over there, Numan, again? If you could repeat that.
So what I was asking you, if this concept of like you did not want something
Hmm.
enough can lead to failure. Like, do you believe in the idea that you have to want something enough so that some level of success is guaranteed?
That part, I do believe that yes, there needs to be like the vision is important, right? Like and like
Right,
it could be, see, like it doesn't have, if freedom is what you're looking for, example from a 9 to 5, right? Then you will
right,
figure out, then you will try to work towards something that allows you to get out of that 9 to 5. Okay. Once,
right,
and this is just kind of me portraying a little bit of my life too, okay, in there, and we can pick things apart later, but just for the sake of it, you will try to work on things that will get you out of that. You might not work towards things that you like to do, right? But it's just to get out of that rut first, the 9 to 5 thing. Now that you get out of it, then you start exploring more things within, outside that scope, that okay, I got out of that, but the thing that got me out is not the thing that I want to do for the rest of my life. Maybe now I want to take things on upon self-interest, or things that interest me more. Because I completely skipped that part. To be honest, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody telling me this. I wasn't reading enough
right,
books. I didn't have enough knowledge. I didn't have the right people around me. And I don't want to blame it on them. My understanding came later, which is completely fine. Life happens that way. But
right,
I was not able to let go of those things because I found something of interest and I pursued it. I just didn't want to do, I went with the idea, like some people go with the idea, this is what I want, right? I went with the idea, this is what
right,
I don't want, right? So the approach was completely different. I was like, man, whatever, I just don't want this. I don't want this,
right,
right? So yes, a certain obsession is required, a certain desire is required, and a certain interest is required, because that's where like people say, all these people talk about, oh, the sleep, proper eating, proper habits, proper sleeping time, and this and that, so much.
right,
I personally feel a certain amount of chaos and madness and obsession is required, especially at the early stages, for you to pursue the thing that you're pursuing, or to start getting good at the thing that you're pursuing. Like if you are too fixated upon, did I get all the late nights, right? All the hard work doesn't come with this. Like it comes in chaos a little bit. You're up all night working on the things that you need to work, right? I don't know of any entrepreneur that's like, people become philosophers and all these good advising people once they've made the money, wouldn't you say? Then they tell you about the good habits, and but when they were starting off,
right.
they were just at it, bro. No sleep, no, right?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, that's true. It's. Yeah, I think you're also like, I agree with you on the idea that you need to have like, you need to want something enough to be able to do it, because like, um, regardless of what it is you're doing, like if you don't want it enough, then you cannot sustain it. You can find short-term success, and I think that's why a lot of like these drop shipping
Hmm.
businesses and these sort of like online websites that people make, these one product ones, they fail because they are chasing to satisfy a singular goal, which is make money, right? It's not, and what they're doing is they don't want that enough, like that brand that they're building, that business they're building, it's all built to satisfy one purpose, and that's why they disappear and they all find failure. I read somewhere that within the first 6 months, practically 90 to 95% of dropshipping businesses fail, and they mostly fail because people give
Mhm.
up. They don't go through that, that dark phase we talked about, that dark period, because you're gonna have that dark period for businesses like these. You have your dark period right in the beginning because that's when it comes. Like it doesn't come like after you found some success, it comes right out the door. You have no customers, nobody knows you, nobody trusts you, nobody knows where your products are coming from, and half these websites look
Mhm,
shifty
mhm,
as it already is. So you're pretty much like failure is hovering over you like a
mhm.
helicopter, right? It's just waiting for you to, like, just do something
Like
stupid, bro.
you
Like,
can,
I'm gonna
yeah,
send you 6 feet under,
mm,
and people
sorry,
do
sorry,
it.
continue.
Right. And that's one of the things. It reminds me of, like, just sort of like this example that I used. It's so wonderful because I want to tell
Mhm,
you this beautiful story about, it's not even like a very long one, it's a very simple story about failure. So I tried drop shipping for the longest time, and I know, like, in the past, like long time ago, I've spoken to you about it
mhm,
here and there, but I was trying drop shipping nonstop. One of the reasons I kept doing it again and again was because the cost of entry
mhm,
was
mhm.
very low, right? Like that
Yeah.
Shopify website, that fool
Mhm,
gives you 3 4 weeks free. Like, he's
mhm,
like, go, because he knows that like, I can't keep taking people's money. These
mhm,
fools, like, they
mhm,
just keep failing. So he was being very generous, and man, Ali, I was trying everything from furniture to makeup to beauty products to
mhm,
car electronics. I, like, must have spoken to
mhm,
half of
mhm,
China, right? I'm pretty sure, like, in the Chinese government, they probably have my
mhm,
name
mhm,
somewhere. Like, this guy calls,
mhm,
don't pick up. Like, he's
mhm,
gonna waste your time. And I did this for the longest time. I did one with my brother where we sold these beautiful ceramic pots for
mhm,
plants, and that failed miserably after like 5 orders. uh, and I gave up for a very very long time, and then one day, out of the blue, I found this sort of like a fidget spinner toy kind of thing, and I just really liked it. I thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen, and I just sort of understood it. And it wasn't something new. It was, like, already viral on TikTok and all of these websites. And so I decided to, like, just import some from China, and then just sell them on Facebook. I didn't even make a Shopify website, but I was just so, like, happy about this toy, like how it made me feel, and I wanted more people to have it because I loved pressing the buttons, and I found it calming. And I found that, when I am, like, trying to do some work, it prevents me from distracting myself because I'm occupied in a way. And I just knew how to communicate to people why they should buy this product from me. Like, I just knew exactly the kind of, like, pain points, if you will. Like, you in business, we talk about addressing pain points. I knew what the pain points were. I knew, like, why, who the customer, like, I could tell you eyes closed who the customer was. I was so, like, into this, and I sold and I found success, and it made me think that all those times that I failed trying to start a dropshipping business, all those times I failed and wasted so much money on shitty ads on Facebook, and buying a Shopify subscription, paying designers and God knows what not. At the end of the day, I was still mimicking, and I wasn't passionate about what I was selling. Like, how do you tell, like, someone, like a man like me who's never used a lipstick in his life, like, bro, we need you to be passionate about
There
lipstick,
you go.
and then sell it?
No,
Like,
there you go. There you
what do
go.
I say? Like, let me, right? Like, let me put this on my lips and see how it goes. Like, it's just not gonna work for me, right? Like, and this is one of the things that I have learned about failure, and I'm, like, trying to connect it here, Ali, like, because I feel like this is one of the biggest lessons in failure, and we did talk about it at length, is that passion is extremely key to sort of like, I shouldn't use this word, but I feel inclined to, like, if you're trying to avoid
Like
failure,
bro,
right? Because
100%,
you
100%.
you
Yeah, yeah.
agree with me,
Especially talk about this passion thingy. I have come across people in my life, man, that
right?
they are the most interesting and the most amazing people. They can sell you anything. They can convince you for anything till the time they're passionate about it.
Right.
As soon as you give them something that they're not passionate about, you're like, bro, are you even the same guy?
Yeah,
Right? How can't you? Because it doesn't it doesn't, and it doesn't translate into other things. The passion is that people can hear in your
it
voice, they
does
can
not.
see it with your body language, they can see it with the work that you put in, even with your customer service and things. You see the passion, and those are the things that you can do for such a long time. And honestly, man, who hasn't like with this drop shipping? The thing is, I still remember the store that I started. It was called Unoware, Unoware, Unoware. That I still remember, bro. I put in every single thing that I could put as a drop shipping item. I put it on there, from yoga mats to sunglasses to hats with fans on it, right? Anything and everything, and
Right.
you know, and zero, and honestly, zero sales, right? Like, because even when I was typing the ads, I was like, man,
Right.
what am I supposed to say here? Like, I'm not bad if, but example, if now you tell me to sell a book that I've read and that I'm passionate about, I
Right.
am very sure after having a 10-minute conversation with me, you will be picking up that book. I will pump you up, I will hype you up just
Right.
because I myself got value from it, right? Something that you did not get value from
Right.
it and you try to give it to somebody else, it's very that's a tough one to do. Like, and you know, and somehow the very like everybody, like, it doesn't connect with the inner you. You know that the value that you are giving might not be, like, because that's kind of going too deep, because you never know what value other person takes from it. Like we spoke
Right.
about this at length before, that intention, right? Your intention
Yeah,
is,
we did.
if your intention is just to make money, that's a difficult one. But if your intention is to, like, uh like even let's say in real estate example, right? Somebody who wants you to move into an apartment because they know it's going to be a right fit for you will have such a different
Right.
way of talking to you, right? They will really make you feel, man, this is and if especially if they attend to your needs, rather than a person who just wants you to buy that apartment. He just wants to make his commission. Two very
Exactly.
different
Yeah.
experiences, right? And I like and sometimes I have felt that maybe, man, I want to go, even though I'm getting a better deal here, I rather go with this person because I felt that person cares about his work and cares about, and in turn cares about me, you know? That's how sometimes people choose schools too, right? Like, you talk to one school, you talk to the other
Yeah.
school, you
Yeah.
just feel that this school doesn't just want my money, they do actually want me, in that sense. So the passion
Yeah.
part, I feel, because the one from honestly, because since you were naming things, I'm just thinking back, man, from drop shipping. At one point in time, I was trying to sell yellow pages, bro. Okay, I was trying to sell yellow pages because I heard that, because they knew that somebody else had success with this, right?
Right.
And they were like, man, if
Right.
all the phone books that come onto your doorstep and then you don't do anything about it, the very thick ones. I don't know if they still come or not, right?
Right. Yeah.
But
And
right.
I know what
So
you're
then
talking about.
after
Yes.
1 year, they go to waste. But in countries like, let's say, India, Pakistan, Philippines and stuff, they use those papers on as street food and for other things, right? So it was like, man, you send these things from here to there. Bro, I called up every Yellow Pages company over here. I got the deals, I got the numbers, and after a few months, I'm like, I never shipped anything, but I got the deals. I used to call the people in other countries, go like, man, I have this, you know, uh, one container is gonna cost you this much, and at the end, now that I look back, I'm like, well, what was I doing? Like, honestly, I I I was a counselor at that time. I used to counsel international students, and I loved doing that, right? And if I would have focused my energy on doing that stuff better, right, instead of just chasing this, because this idea of this quick, easy money was very prevalent at that time. It's still
Right.
today, right? It's still the quick money making ideas prevalent to anybody who is looking for that, who's caught up in that
Right.
world, right? So sorry, just kind of going back, that so many things tried and tested without the understanding that is this who I am? Is this what I want? Or, and honestly, I feel some of the like this is just a conversation with a friend of mine who has a kid. This is a very recent conversation, maybe like 2 weeks ago. I'm having a conversation with him and this guy,
Okay.
and he's telling me that his kid is thinking about going to Italy to study, this to pursue higher education. And then I asked him, I was like, man, what does he like to do? He's like, man, he's a lot into sports. He loves sports. I was like, okay, and what part of sports does he like? He's like, man, sports therapy and sports consultation, sports. What's the word I'm looking? Sports psychology. That's what he loves the most, right?
Right.
I was like, man, if and he's like, it's not that he just loves it from today. He loves this from a very long time. And in my mind, I was like, bro, honestly, as parents or so, of course we want them I feel that if you can give them a direction to go for, right? Because direction is what we lack, right? Sometimes we are so and we keep doing so many things here and there, but so anyways, going back to the point that I was like, if he has found something now, right? And if he can just start focusing on that thing now, right? Instead of still trying to figure out what, because he has figured it out. He's been interested in this since the last 6, 7 years. This is what his interest has been, and he's still trying to see, is there anything else out there that interests me? Give an example, right? Kind of what I was doing when I was a kid. I felt I found things that I really loved, but I always kept looking for the next best thing, not understanding that, hey, I love this thing. If I pursued it now, where would I be in the next 5, 6 years? Just because the growth would come so easy because I love this thing. But no, oh, what's the person next to me doing? What's this other guy doing? Oh, he made money super quickly. Oh, this guy made money in 5 days. Oh, this guy made money in 3 days. I love the 3 day more, three day thing more. You see, the compass was so messed up, right? So, anyways, I was just telling him, I was like, man,
Right.
if he's found that, he's so blessed that if he's figured it out at this age,
Right.
and if he pursues from now, I can only imagine where he would be in the next 5 years. He would be set in the next 5 years or few years. He would be set because he found his direction, right? Which I
Yeah.
felt came to me very
It,
late in life.
it's yeah, yeah, it's a very interesting point for me as well, because it's one of those things I also found late in life. I think I consider it a bit of my misfortune that I found this late in life, like how important passion is. And I think like I have also learned from repeated failure. I don't know if you connect with me on this one or not, but having failed at so many things, I have sort of learned that the things that I do where my heart is more than
Mhm.
open to it, my heart is open to the many possibilities, and also that my heart is just really excited about this. Like, I want to see where it will go. I want to see what the outcomes will be. I want to see like what I can do differently. When I start asking these important questions, when I really start dialing down and looking at my approach, looking at my input, looking at my actions, I find that it is easier to sort of like find some success. I'm not saying like that grand level of success. It is easier to find some success. If not easier to find some success, it also, in my opinion, makes it extremely easy to deal with failure, because then I don't see it sort of like as in like, yo, what happened, man? This should not have happened. This is terrible.
Mhm.
I should not have failed. And I see it differently. I was like, okay, what did I do wrong here that led me to this? Like, why isn't this working, right? What should I have done differently? Did I do too much of this? Did I do too little of that? Or was my timing off? There's these questions that come in, and they can be overwhelming. But understanding them is extremely important, and I think that only comes through the wisdom of failure, through the wisdom of repeated failure, in my opinion. um, because I feel like the person you are when you first have this sort of like
Mhm.
awareness of failure, if you will understand what I'm trying to say, because there's so many periods of our life that we fail, but we're not really aware of it. But when you have that first awareness of failure and how it feels, how you evolve after that says a lot about you as a person.
Mm.
right? Do you see what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, I feel you. Like also, like as you said, doing the thing the way you want to do it is the best way to do it, rather than
Yeah.
doing the way how people expect you to do it, but then like puts you in a very weird spot, right? Like, okay, then you're living up to somebody else's expectations and idea of success and failure, right? You want to live within your way of like your idea of success and failure in that sense. Like, uh,
Ali, can I just pick
let's say,
something here? Because you said something
hmm,
very, very important and interesting, and I think we kind of
uh,
overlook this. You said that you're living the idea of someone else's, sorry, someone else's
mhm.
idea of success and failure, right? And I think it's worth asking here is that maybe even from your own personal experience, and like I'll also share my personal experience, but like when you've looked at some of your earlier failures, were they failures in your eyes, or were they failures in sort of like, how you think society would see it? Because I think that's a very important distinction to make.
Man, so much of it. Like when you say this, I really remember my O levels and my A levels time. To be honest, it was bro. It
Right,
was
yeah, yeah.
like uh, I, I did good. I'm not gonna lie. I did good in my O and my A levels. But honestly, the talk of the town was my son has 7 A's. Your son got 6 A's. Oh, his son got 8 A's. Oh, you got 9 A's, and you're just like, man, what is this? Like, I'm telling you that I remember getting 6 or 7 A's or so, but I remember people around me had scored 8 or 9 A's or 9 to 10 A's, right? Because see,
Right.
this is what I'm working with, Numan, at that age. This is what I'm working with. That,
Exactly, right. And so your sense of failure is now completely warped, because if I saw, like, if I got like 6 7 A's out of like 9 A's or whatever it is, like, I'd be pretty proud of myself, man. That's 6 straight A's is not easy to
and you know what?
do.
Like honestly, the biggest and just see this, Manoman. Even if I got even if I got, let's say, 9 C's and 1 A, okay? Nobody focused on the part that where did he get an A? Okay? Why did he get an A here?
That's very interesting.
Why?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
that's my North Star, right? That means that thing is that maybe I got an A because that thing came easy to me. It was something of my interest, right? Nobody focused on that. They all spoke about let's improve his C's, right? Like now that I'm look back, I'm kind of amazed with this ideology as well. That why didn't anybody focus on that 1 A that I got and give me that direction? Be like, okay, man, he got an A in economics. That means this kid is good at economics. Why not give him something more economic stuff to do? Because this is what he clearly he's good at that, right? Instead, it was like, right?
That's a
Sorry,
very,
go ahead.
yeah. No, I said that's I really like where you're going with this. Like, I like the idea of like reframing, the whole concept of failure and finding success within it, and then asking a question,
Hmm.
right? Like, that's such a powerful, like, a tool you've just handed to a lot of people. I feel like it's a very
They
important
always
thing to
wanted,
know.
like they I say to society, or and especially the kind of society that I grew up in, it was like, man, uh, I bro, I was so good at table tennis. I was so two sports I was good at was table tennis and swimming. Both of them I always did. I was within I was within the top three always with those sports. But I was really shitty at long jump. But the focus was on improving my long jump. Huh? I just find it funny now. I'm like, all right, like the focus is on bringing something that I'm down to up, but not the focus is not something that I'm good at and making that and making me excel at that.
Yeah,
Right?
it's something I'm
Like
bad
so,
at. Yeah.
what's this approach? Like I don't know I don't know what the word is, but it doesn't sound right. Like
No.
he's clearly showing you that he's good at this thing, yet you yet you want to
Right.
make sure that he's good at something that he is not good at. Right? Like,
Something, yeah, he doesn't want to do something just that's natural, not natural to
yeah.
him, right? Like, it's such a, I like this concept in the sense, because this is what society does to people, right? Like, they try to make us all
Hmm.
rounders, right? You just have to be good at everything, and I've always wondered, like, why? Because I know, like, probably in your childhood it must have happened too. In my childhood, drawing on paper was a very big part of life, learning how to draw. And the first thing they sort of teach you how to draw is an apple. Now I remember like the first day, when I still remember it like it was yesterday, because it was one of my happiest days, which was that I'd get to, finally use my color pencils and those watercolor like little plastic case you would buy, and it had those little circles inside. And they said that we were gonna draw an apple. I had never drawn properly in my life before. You scribble here and there, and I swear to God, like the teacher came in and the assignment was there and like, okay, draw an apple. And I drew a horrible apple. It looked like the most hideous apple in the history of apples. And rather than find some sort of consolation, some sort of encouragement, I was obviously insulted by the teacher. I was, made fun of, like, oh, this looks pretty bad. And I wasn't the only person in class. Like, a lot of other people had done a
Mhm,
pretty
mhm,
bad job, and, no one was spared. And it had such a impact on me that, I avoided drawing for the longest time, because every time I would try to draw, I would remember like this interaction that I had where I was informed that I am just terrible at this and I should just stick to doing something else. Right? Like this was my first shot at it. And this is what sort of like society does to you, is that sometimes they fail you before you've even failed, and then they punish you for that failure in such a way that it becomes difficult to overcome it for a very, very long time. Because in your formative years, there are things that will happen to you that will sort of stick
mhm,
with you, and no matter how hard you try to overcome them, they just sort of like
mhm,
linger on, and they sting you at moments when you're about to cross a threshold, right? You're about to like break free from old chains. They start stinging you, and then it's really a battle to sort of overcome this. And I find that failure is one of the greatest tools at bringing out this pain sometimes. Like if you're someone who works a lot on your self development, as I know you do as well, I actively seek failure now. Like I actively try to put myself in situations, and not like situations where I don't know what I'm doing, situations where I think like, it's worth exploring my passion. It's worth seeing like if I'm passionate about this. And if I fail, then I try and assess why I have failed. I ask those questions. And I found that it has made me more aware of my inputs, more aware of my thinking. And I don't immediately jump into sort of like any idea or venture as soon as it was announced. This is actually, Ali, I should really stress on this point. um, you know how we talked about so many examples from
mhm,
drop
mhm,
shipping and starting businesses and then failing at them, and mimicry. Like now when someone presents an idea to
mhm,
me or someone suggests a venture, like my first, before in the past was like, yo, let's
yeah.
go tomorrow, let's do this, no questions asked, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, because the mindset was like, yeah, probably make a few
Mhm,
dollars
mhm,
here. Now it's like, no, wait, there is a lot of work involved. Am I willing to do that work? Am I willing to like sit down and be passionate about it? Because if I don't do any of that, I am pushing myself in the direction where I will receive a negative input that I don't like, which is failure. And then I'm going to start asking questions, and then I'm going to realize at the end like it was all me. And nobody likes to, one day sit, at the edge of your bed, and then you finally realize that, yes, I am the architect of all my problems. Like no one else
mhm.
is responsible for that. I did this to myself.
And
uh,
it's frustrating,
and
right? It's frustrating
yeah,
to
it is.
it's frustrating to experience failure in something that you don't did not even want to succeed so badly in any ways, right?
In the
That's like, man,
yes,
what am I even going through this pain for? I really, at the end of the day, I'm not, I can't see myself doing this till the time I'm 60, 70, 80, or for the next 10 years. This is, so I'm just going through this pain just for
exactly,
the,
yeah.
like, so just that part of it, right? Like, if you, like, so, because what you said, I resonated with you 100%, man. So many, even till today, uh, knowing that we have been successful at our entrepreneurial ventures, right? Friends approach, people approach, right? Go
Right.
like, hey, Adi, I'm thinking of doing this. Why don't you join? Or what do you think about this? Let's start it together, right? And I'm just like, man, I
Yeah.
would love to. right? But the thing is that I know that it's not going to be too much fun, right? But at least there's money in it. I understand.
Yeah.
But but as you said that I know I will experience failure and I know what it takes to reframe that failure as something, something to work towards as a learning
As a learning
experience.
experience.
But
Yeah.
it's so frustrating to do that when you know that you're not passionate about it, right? Then then that failure
Right.
really becomes failure in that sense. That failure really becomes frustration. Right now, something that I really want to achieve, that failure is not frustration, bro. That failure is just a direction. That failure is just like something that I need to work on to improve on,
Yeah.
right? And that's a whole different feeling rather than going through that part and you're just like, and then a failure, and then once, and as we discussed before, it's only failure if it's not corrected, right? And when you're passionate about something, when you're frustrated about something, what do? You don't correct it, and then that failure sticks, and then that
Yeah.
thing vanishes, and you're like, man, you know. And such a big part of life has gone by doing these things, to be honest with you, right? It's like so many ventures and
Right. The there's a theme I'm
mhm,
picking up here, because you've used this word a few times before, and I kind of wanted to, like, I was gonna pick it up before, but I wanted to hold back and see if you still use it again. You've used the word
mhm,
control a few times, and I feel like, with the wisdom of like repeated failures, and like an increase in your awareness as you go through life, like I feel, and like really, like if you feel like
mhm.
correcting me on this one, it might be worth it, that failure is something you can eventually learn to control.
Failure is something
Do you
that
see
you can eventually.
that you can eventually learn to control, like, how bad the failure is gonna be, right? Like, or how you're going to react to the failure, or what strategies you have in place in case failure seems imminent. Because it's not just about like handling the after effects of failure, you still have to handle the failure as it's happening. I feel like most people don't realize that there, within failure, there is an opportunity for a graceful exit, for a graceful shutdown, for a graceful
Mhm,
pause. Most people like abruptly fail and then like set everything on fire, and the next day the website has
mhm,
disappeared,
mhm,
right? Like I feel like it's one of the things that I have learned in life about failure is that you can eventually control, and I'm not
mhm,
saying all of it, very very small aspects of it, just enough that you don't come out on the other side hurt, bleeding, and bruised. It's I think I if I could share an
mhm,
example with you, which I think you'd
mhm,
immediately understand, is
mhm,
trading, right? Like when you take large positions, you remember we talked a lot about like stop losses
mhm,
and trailing stop losses. I remember how our conversation went from having fixed
mhm.
stop losses to
Uh-huh.
trailing stop losses, right? Because we'd become so like in tune with what we were doing. We'd become so in tune with like the flow of like, that particular security, that we'd understood that if like a failure was going to happen after this point, this is how I was going to control it. Like, this is my fallback position. And it worked really well, because I noticed that the losses
Mhm,
that were, well, at least I had, were going down, right? And I learned a lot that day when we talked about trailing stop losses. I was like, why don't I take this concept and apply it to like areas of my life where I can say like, okay, I've gotten to this stage, it doesn't look like I've failed, but I feel like the next stage might be a bit much for me, or maybe it's too early, or maybe I'm not ready. What is a good like fallback position so I don't abandon the whole project? Right? I can alter like the further parts of my strategy. This is something I do a lot more now in my life. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Ali. Like, I am seeing a lot of success in many, many areas. When I say a lot of success, there's a
mhm,
bit of exaggeration. It's not like, thousands of people are coming to what I'm building, but I'm seeing hundreds of people come in every single day, which is far more than I, usually expect to see on my personal ventures. And it was just a matter of like having fallback positions, like, okay, if this didn't work, I should have something else ready to go.
So, mhm, mhm,
and
mhm.
that's,
So,
yeah,
so with the
go on
control
please.
part, when you were saying that, I was just thinking that I was just kind of visualizing that, man, if I fall and if I like, I was just thinking that, uh, in my mind, I see it as it, it was worth it. It was worth the pain. It was worth the hurt, right? It was worth the suffering.
Right,
Was it worth the suffering or not, right? Like, uh, a marathon runner can fall, he can hurt himself, right? He might not get the position, but he challenged himself to a thing that he really wanted to conquer. He might not come in the top three, but what if he can say, man, it was worth it, right? Because something in him really wanted that too, to feel that entire, because success, like, uh, let's be real, success is not guaranteed. Even with having everything around you, success is sometimes not guaranteed, right? Success is, a lot of things come in play in how you frame and what is success, and so it's not always guaranteed. But was the suffering worth it, right? Like, was it worth, s- whatever I'm doing right now, the pain and the failures? Does it feel, I don't know, like, I'm just trying to put a word to that emotion. Is it like, was it was the pain worth the experience, right? Some and when I'm saying
right,
this, I'm really feeling like in my mind, I'm really visualizing like a person running in a marathon, feeling the pain in his legs, right? Or a
right,
UFC fighter,
right,
or a boxer fighting and getting punched in the face, right? Was it
right,
at the end, sometimes even with the loss, they're like, man, I took so much this and that, but it was worth it. I had to do this. I have to do this, right? Like, because it's a calling from within, right? So I feel when
right,
something is a calling from within, and when you understand that, it becomes very easy to take all these punches and all these pains and all these failures, just because you're like, man, I knew this was going to be part of it, and I knew that I would experience this, and I knew that I would come out okay at the other end, because I was okay getting jabbed so hard. I was okay knowing that my legs would give out, right? Because these possibilities are there. You
right,
might get knocked out. You might faint.
yeah,
This might
yeah,
happen. The possibilities, but was it worth it? Like, do you still want to do it? And some people will be like, heck yeah, I want to do it. I
r-
still want to do it, right? Same with trading. It might be,
right,
right? Who knows what the situation is, right? Sometimes you win big, but was it, was,
right,
is it worth it? But like, yeah, man, it's worth it because I get to challenge myself this way. I get to see myself this way. Um, One thing that I used to love to do, Numan, was as a kid, I was the one in the, like, we used to have a lot of debates in my school for some reason. A lot of debate, like,
right,
up in the assembly debates, entire school is there, we're having debate competitions. I
yeah,
love
yeah, yeah,
debating. Like, at that point in time, even though uh, I do remember that, of course, I lost some debates, but even coming out of that, it just felt so good, bro. I was like, man, I know I lost the debate, but it was worth it. It was really worth it, man. I enjoyed it thoroughly, being on stage, talking out loud, putting my points there, being so passionate to a point that, like, pounding the podium at times, right? Just those actions were so exciting rather than the result itself. That I get to do this. I get to speak my mind. And we were only three, four people having these debates, right? And we were mostly, I remember, good for 4 or 5 years, we were only, that was the only group that would debate. Like, not many newcomers were there. But I improved. I failed, but it just felt so good at that time, right? So the point that I'm trying to come at is it worth it? Is it still, is there still fun in losing? I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but of course. Hmm,
no, you made a very good point, and I think like another example that I can sort of add to this to help
hmm,
anyone that's listening to this to relate to this even more. You know how when you start lifting heavier weights and your muscles
mhm.
start to hurt, or even when you start lifting weights the first time and your body is sore the next day, and every part of you says that you really want to do
Yeah.
this again, like,
Uh.
are you stupid? Right, like, did you know like how much in pain you are? Like, I remember like when was regularly working out without fail 5 days a week, and one of the days I remember my body was hurting. Like I was in pain. I don't know why I was in pain, what I did wrong, but I was in pain. My back hurt, my arms hurt, and my body kept saying like, why are we doing this? This is just disgusting. Like this pain is horrible. Like we're taking painkillers and we have to do today's workout anyways because it is a requirement. And that conversation must have lasted in my head for like maybe 10-15 seconds, and then this conversation came in, and it was just like, man, I really want to work out
Hmm.
today. Like I really want to do this. Like I enjoy doing it. I enjoy the way it makes me feel afterwards. I enjoy watching myself, or at least like trying to overcome something, right? Trying to lift these heavy circular
Hmm.
discs every day. Like it makes me feel good in a certain way, and I've never enjoyed it before. But now it's not even a concept of like, well, I just want to prove to myself I can do it. I've
Hmm.
already done that. I just want to do it now because this is my time with myself,
Hmm.
right? Like it's 1 hour with me and my body. Like it's like hanging out with a friend. Like
Hmm.
that's how I see it. And like I get upset sometimes when I cannot start my workout at the same time. Like it's just because like I find that time peaceful. Sometimes I'll have music, sometimes I don't even have music. And so this is what you are trying to say here, which is something I really, really agree with, is that you really gotta
Really.
want it. You really gotta be like, ready to go the next day. Like, now I'm going back at it again. Like,
Because
I
something
want
in
to,
you is the
I want to
fire.
do
Like
it.
uh, we spoke about all the physical stuff, Numan, and I know you will relate.
Yeah.
You can relate with this too. The mental stuff, bro.
Oh
Recently,
yeah, man.
there have been texts, there have been books, articles that reading
Yeah.
after reading took me sometimes weeks to recover because it broke everything in my mind, right? It broke me. It broke my mentality, it broke my understanding, beliefs, so many things happened, right? But I got back,
Right.
I opened that book again. I continued that book, knowing
Right.
it was painful, bro. Like reading thing, like seeing something, seeing your beliefs challenged is no easy task, right? Is no easy task, right? And you
Right.
and you
It's, yeah, you're
and you
absolutely
intentionally
right.
doing that
Yeah.
to yourself. It's not that somebody else is doing that to you. You
It's
yourself.
not. When you start facing like certain
Mhm.
truths about you, it really like challenges your own assertions and
But
beliefs
what's
about
the
who you are as a person. It
but then
really
what's the
makes you
passion
feel
behind? The passion
music.
is, hey, I wanna learn, I wanna grow, I wanna be knowledgeable, and that's what it takes, right? I cannot just read one side of the story and say I'm wise, I'm wiser now.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. So understand the game, right? Understand the game, and if you still really want it, and then I proved it to myself by honestly, um, you've seen those days too, Numan, lost after reading some things,
Yeah.
right? Till the
Completely
time you
lost.
read something more, and
Yeah.
that puts it to rest, and then you read more, and then you get a better understanding of, okay, this is what. Hmm.
Yeah. This is a very good point because like the mental aspect of freedom. I wanted to say
Mhm.
something on this one because you bring the
Mhm.
books part up, dude. That is very, very important to me because I am like
Mhm.
an avid reader, and I love reading. And there was a period, like, you might think less of me on this one, but there was a period where I was such a
Mhm.
purist that I considered the idea of listening to a
Mhm.
audio book
Mhm.
a crime. I was like, no, you have to read it to like absorb the knowledge. It never made any sense because I was just an idiot. But I had this problem with books where like I considered it a failure if I read a book and I didn't understand it from like start to finish. Like I couldn't explain it from start to finish,
Mhm.
right? And I did this for a very long time where I would read a book and I would then tell myself, okay, what did you understand from this? And then I'd be like, okay, I understood this, and then I understood this. Oh, but then like I'd go revisit my notes and be like, oh, I forgot about this. I forgot about 100 things. And I didn't frame it correctly. I kept framing it as failure again and again and again. I never asked myself, well, why do I remember these things
Mhm.
though?
Mhm.
What is it about these certain points that I immediately remember them? Like, was I paying more attention, or were they more easier to understand? What was it about them? And it took me a very long time to ask that question. And I still had this in my head for a very long time that if I didn't grasp the entirety of what I am reading, I have failed at reading. And it might be worth adding here that that concept does not come to us naturally. That is a concept that is filled into our heads when we're children, when they make you memorize your
Mhm,
textbooks, especially in the schools that you and I
mhm,
went to, right? Like, you need to know your book from inside to outside, otherwise you're not going to be able to answer the questions that come in the exams and the finals. And I carried that attitude for the longest time. And now it's like I read a book. I recently reread this book, How to Think Like a
mhm,
Rocket Scientist. It's a wonderful book, Ali. Like, you should read it. And it's all about like problem solving and how rocket
mhm.
scientists solve some of the most complex problems. And they'll show you like some of these insane problems. And like sometimes I like to do this is like I try to figure out a solution in my head. I'm not a rocket scientist. I've never even like touched a
Mhm,
rocket, but I've convinced myself that if I was to solve this problem, how would
mhm.
I do it? Right? And then you look at their solution and it's something so simple and elegant, like, oh yeah, we just disconnected the battery from this side and we put it to the other side. I'm like, huh, okay. Like it was that easy. But then it also made me understand is that, like, when you are trying to consume knowledge from a book, don't consume it with an objective in mind that my goal is to understand the book, because that's not happening in one
Mhm,
or two reads. That's like 10
mhm.
plus readings. Like, just just recall your school time. You did not learn something instantly. It was very rare. And that helped me also reframe the concept of failure extensively, because reading is one of the things that we improve in. And I think it's one of the things that people need to understand is that don't look for failure in what you're learning. Like, if it happens, it happens. It's not a big deal. I don't know, I might have digressed here for a bit, but I just, like, it really sparked something in me when you said reading, and I was like, this is something worth discussing about failure.
With like a, I think you're on point, bro. With reading or with anything like that, it takes time to understand, to perfect, and see. The thing is that you continue doing it. The part, I think the main thing is continuing to do it, right? Some people, I've seen people who have read, just giving you like just an example. You give a book to somebody, they read the first 3 pages. They're like, man, uh, um, the English is a little bit too not my type. I couldn't read it further. And you're like, man, you're still
Right,
stuck on that part of the equation, right? Like, for me, it's honestly,
right,
I'm sorry, it just sounds like an excuse, right?
right,
I've read some religious texts before, right? The entire language is totally different than what we are used to now, right? But it's not that I read the first. I was more focused on the wisdom that's in it rather than the way it's being delivered. And all the dies and the thoughts and the all those like that kind of English, right? The old school English. It would take me two like pacing wise. It took me double the time to read those kind of books and to reflect on those. But it didn't stop me from doing
right,
it because the focus was not just reading. The focus was like, man, what's the wisdom in there, right? What is he trying to tell me? That the intriguing part, the passion part. As like I remember as a kid, man, I was told to read. I shouldn't even say told. I was kind of forced a little bit to read Harry Potter. Okay. I read all the Harry Potter till the time the
right,
thickest one. I don't remember it was the third one or the fifth one, but the thickest one came out, and that's where I drew the line. I was like, no, yeah, it got too thick to fake it now, right? Because I was just even before I used to love reading R.L. Stein as a kid, right? The thrillers, this is happening. That was, but people around me wanted to read. People around me wanted me to read Harry Potter because that was the coolest thing to do at that time. I'll be honest, right? Hey, my kid has read Harry Potter. Has your kid?
right.
Ali Mohammed, read Harry Potter. But that's not what I like to read,
I remember
right?
that time. I remember that time how popular Harry Potter was. Yeah, everybody had to
Right.
be
So,
reading it.
and I would fake it, bro. I would fake it just to have a conversation, so it felt that I read it. I don't remember much of it. I remember more the movies, of course. But this is what I'm saying, that to learn, like it becomes learning failure becomes so much easy when it's something you love to do. To be honest with you, it's
Yeah, that's
so
true. That
it's
is a
so
very
much
good point.
easier. So even
Yeah.
even when some of my friends call me and we have a conversation, they're talking about entrepreneurship and they're like, "Man, let's just start something." I'm like, "Man, this is when I'm going to draw the line right now. If you're just looking to start something, you're gonna have a very hard time climbing the mountain. And even if you did, and even if you do, y- you might come down very quickly too, right? Just because it's not something, but if you love doing something, and then even if it's not the biggest money maker, you're just loving life, man. You're just loving life. Like, and honestly, people, I also want listeners to know that entrepreneurship and having businesses, and this is not where happiness is all the time, to be honest with you. It's not. I've
Yeah.
had jobs where I was so happy till the time I was triggered with this money making part and the freedom part or so. There were jobs that I was so happy. I was when I was counseling students, but of course when you bring in the administration part and the quotas and the this, then it becomes not good, right? But just the pure act of counseling. I loved it, bro. I loved it to a point. My soul loved it, to be honest with you. When I would see these kids outside, they would still talk to me, still look for advice, still look for counseling, still look for those things. And that's the part that I love the most, but I hated all the administration part attached to it, right? That, oh, only the numbers, the this, and oh, but even to a point that can you counsel this person towards this because there's more commission in this? And you're like, man, now it's hurting my soul. You feel me? I just want to give, right? Like, and then, so
Right.
so that's the like so it's not just about it doesn't have to be your own. It's just something that's something you like
Right.
to do, you love to do. Life becomes so much easier. Waking up in the morning becomes so much easier. Staying up late at night
Right.
becomes so much easier. Having conversations with people becomes so much easier. Confidence becomes so much everything comes so much easier when it's something you're something you love to do. And but the biggest thing is to
Eh,
figure out what you love to do. And honestly, this is sorry, no one to ramble on this, but to figure
No,
this
no,
out,
yeah,
what
go
you
on.
it requires reflection, right? Even with
It
this,
does.
like talking to people, helping them, this and that, I had to sit through and think of it. I was like, man, in my lifetime, what's this? What's something that I loved doing? And I spoke to you about this a bit some time back, right? I was like, oh man,
Uh,
I really feel that, man, helping people, in terms of knowledge and direction and things, this is what I love to do. Like really, I really, really like
right.
doing this. I know that a big part of my life is going to be pursuing this part. Of course, I will do other hobbies and other interests and stuff too, but I really feel this thing comes very, I wouldn't say easy to me, but I love it. It feels so good. And and then that was that day and today is today, right? Things have been very I wouldn't say completely focused on this, but a lot of direction is towards just knowing that,
Right.
man, I like to help people, and this is what I do. If you converse with me, and that just came from seeing the jobs that I had, the things that I like to do, because I had other jobs too, right? I couldn't see the love or value in that, even though some of them made me more money. But where was the love? Where was the soul, right? So yeah, sorry, a little bit digression, but
It's no, no. I think like this is bringing us very nicely to this sort of like I would say deep understanding of failure, right? Like there's this whole aspect of like we've discussed the relationship with failure that people have, how we sort of like understand failure, and then like what one needs to do to sort of like I wouldn't say avoid failure, but make the whole journey, the more experience easier. But I think like the biggest takeaway for me from this entire conversation so far has been like as long as you do something that you are passionate about, like you're going to have a good time, right? Whether you fail, whether you succeed becomes irrelevant because you are now doing something you want to do, that you want to do every day. And because we keep coming back to this, and it definitely resonates with me because that's where I have found my success. So it's not just your experience that is saying that, and it's not just my experience that is saying that. We've also heard this from many successful people who've said same things, that as long as you do something that makes you happy, you will find success. And we're now living examples of it, having experienced it ourselves too. I think there's one more concept about failure, Ali, that I think we should discuss before we bring this to a close. I think it's an important one, and I think that's the fear of failure that people have.
Mhm.
right? Which stops us from doing many, many things in life. Because even now, sometimes when I see new opportunities in life, which, and I'm not talking necessarily about making money, just new opportunities, whether it's networking or, learning about something new or having something in back pocket for the future. I find that there is always this sort of like emotional response to the situation where I am concerned with, well, what if it doesn't go my way, right? Because that fear still somehow finds its way. I tend to personally avoid approaching a situation with an extreme amount of confidence, because I think that's just not right. I think some level headedness is always needed. You can't be overly confident, it just throws everything into disarray. And one example I'll give you, which is very, very fresh, is sort of like this podcast we started, right? Like this little thing. And when we first discussed this, and we came to this idea that let's try a few episodes, see how this goes, and how we find our voice and how this develops. I wasn't hesitant to admit that I was worried about failing at this, but I internally was scared of the idea that what if, like, I am not able to uh, deliver good material, having not even tried it. So this fear was always in me, that what if, like, I fail at doing it right,
See,
and I wasn't able to
I
explain
for
it.
especially with this the first part I agree with you completely, right? The failure part, but like
Yeah,
with the second part that you said about this scenario right now, right? There's one saying that
yeah,
I think kind of especially goes for us in this scenario because we both know our objectives, right? With this we know why we're doing this, right? There's no concept of it's just to to give or create value, right? And to see how to see and to grow and to discuss like self growth was the first part rather than other people, like rather than we we doing the actions that we're doing right now. We kept ourselves a little bit first, right? We were like, man, we will discuss, we will sharpen each other, right? And the world will listen, pretty much, kind of, right? That was a little bit of the thinking. But one thing that I just want to kind of put out there, Noman, is that as everything is a win, okay? When the goal is experience, okay? Everything is a win when the goal is experience. And for us,
right. I
this
like
was
that.
an
Yeah.
experience. This is an experience, right?
Yes. Yes.
Where it goes, I have like neither you know, neither I know, right?
Mm,
But the thing was that
yeah.
we wanted to experience, we wanted to challenge ourselves, right? We wanted to we wanted to say
Yeah.
that, hey, another one in the books, something we know we will grow from, finding our voice, right? But so and so many
Right.
other things, find and especially finding our voice in front of the world to listen to critique to, right? There were so many things that we are getting over within this.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's so if I'm thinking that way about this scenario, right? I feel I'm already winning because we put the first one out there. The second one is here, right?
Right.
It's already happening. It's only a matter of time. Or we know, I kind of know what I know what else is coming from the other side, but that's out of my control. The only thing in control is me,
Right.
us, and you in that sense, and our conversation and our habit of reading books and discussing books, right? Whoever
Right.
finds value. And for me, the biggest thing is this experience, right? That at least I'm telling you, when we were talking about the pain of it, right? Or getting the hurt of it. Even if the hurt comes,
Right.
I will I know it deep in my heart that this word I already know. It was all worth it. It was all worth it. I'm very confident with this scenario that and that's why like we spoke about
Can I
say
just
go ahead.
ask you, like, you said that with
Mm.
so much confidence right now, that it's worth it in the end. Do you think that you've arrived at sort of like that attitude that you have towards this because of your experience with failure?
I honestly y- of course of course and I'm not gonna lie the fear of failure is always fear is the failure is always there, so the fear is a little bit always there too, right? It's not something that's like
Right.
we're not playing this lying game, right? Like we're not lying to ourselves. We know what it is, how it is. But again, I feel that it's not, this is at some points it might deliver, okay? But within this entire thing, there are some certainties. In this scenario, there are some things that are certain, okay? You grow, I grow. That's a certainty.
Okay. Yeah.
There's
Agreed.
no like actually there's no failure involved in that. You would say,
Yeah. There's yeah because we're definitely gonna
right?
learn something.
And our it kind of enhances on the things that we want to pursue is reading, gaining knowledge, and sharpening ourselves. So some things are certain. There is the failure part again is at the part of people's responses to it, right? That part I'm not even considering in my mind. I am looking out for this experience that, man, I put my knowledge out there. I don't know how it transforms shapes or what is this ladder towards. Like it's good to sometimes have a step like the possibilities of the unknown, right? If I try to calculate everything and know everything, then there's no fun. Unless the fun becomes less, because we don't know, right? The skills that we're developing, right? Even if it
Right.
even if it starts helping a few people, you know. And I honestly I cannot wait for the day when we start getting some feedback and questions. But like, guys, what about this? What about that? Engage it. So, sorry, just to go back, that it's going to be whatever, I don't know, but I already know that it's going to be that it's worth it. So then it's okay doing it. I don't know what the result is, but I one thing
Right.
I know, one thing I'm certain is it's worth it. It's worth it. That's what I know.
I, I like that approach because you're absolutely right, right? Like I like how you've reframed this entire endeavor as to like, well, we're still gaining something out of it, and that has to be worth something. And it's a great reminder to myself because I have also explored this thought many times in many of my ventures that at least in the end that I am gonna learn something about this, and that is something to look forward to. But every now and then I seem to be forgetting about this fact. And and because I also have a very strong sort of response to failure on a like from an
Mhm,
emotional perspective, like I always find that whenever I try to do something, the fear sort of surrounds me, and it always makes me ask stupid questions. I want to, the reason why I want to really briefly focus on this one is because this is some of the most common issues that many people experience in their lives when they're attempting something, when it comes to failure. Like there's this always this fear of like
mhm, mhm,
homelessness, there's this fear of like losing your
mhm, mhm,
savings and becoming broke or destitute, right? There's this fear of like being laughed at by people, or like losing your job. And you'll notice that most of these fears, they hover around either your status in
mhm,
society, right? Or they hover around your ability to provide
mhm,
for yourself. That's really what it is, right? Everything else is meaningless because these are the two biggest fears that people have. And I know it took us 2 hours to
mhm,
get to
mhm,
this sort of like point for me as well, because if I was to dumb down my fears, those are the only two things that hold me back. Otherwise, I'm going guns blazing into so many things in life that I'm like crazy
mhm,
passionate about. But I also like, because over time I have become more realistic with where I put my time in, where I put my actions in, and the kind of outputs I'm expecting. So I know like why some things will fail right now and why some things might succeed later in life. It's all about removing as much friction as you can into what you are doing. Speaking of which, I wanted to ask you this, and I think it's a very important question that requires multiple perspectives. Luckily, there's two on this one. having lived your life for 30 plus years right now, having done so many things in your life, having experienced both success and failure, if I was to ask you for your biggest advice on failure and your biggest lesson from failure, what do you think would be like one advice, one lesson?
Failure is, I think that's one thing that I know is that failure uh, is honestly, even when I'm sorry, but slightly, even using this word failure in my mind, it's really rejecting using this word failure right now, just because it's because I know the the things that are attached to it, right? Uh, because I stopped using that word in my life completely, right? Everything is a lesson to be learned from, is something to be changed, or something to be worked on, or something to be left alone. Not you don't fail at anything, to be honest with you. Like in my like because life is such that if framed differently, everything works for you. If you frame things differently, every single thing works different. A person it's raining outside, you have an outdoor activity going, you are sucky about it because it's raining and it affects you. Whereas a rice farmer is laughing, enjoying because it's raining, right? So when you change the frame of something, right, it that the effect of that thing changes completely. You would agree? Right? Because we're all living in the same world, same thing,
Right.
sometimes same things,
Yeah.
and of course, let's not go into the extremes of, the worst case scenarios, but I'm just saying day-to-day stuff, right? So how you frame it, and then in my mind, the way I framed it is something to be worked on. Failure is only like the worst is that it will take a lifelong, the life would entire go by trying to make it better. But I know something will be getting better. It's like if let me put it this way, if you're thinking that you're going to die thinking that, oh, I made it, right? Somebody will say something which will tell you that you did not make it. Right? Like
Right.
somebody can ruin
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Somebody can show you
In 1 second, somebody can ruin it. Yeah.
completely, right, man? Uh, so that
Right.
so if you think of failure this way, then it's a hard one to do, right? So
It
it's just
is.
you have to
Yeah.
frame it differently. Failure will be a part of it. Even these things like the biggest fears that control people are poverty, homelessness, and disease. These are the biggest fears that, but the thing is that it happens to the
Yeah.
best of us. It happens to the worst of us. It happens
It
to
does.
like and and the thing is that that if God forbid if something like that ever happens, right? It's how you tackle it, how you come out of it, whether you accept it, you don't accept it. People who have gone into homelessness, did they accept it or did they try to come out of it, right? People like
Yeah, that's
people
a
who
good one.
have
Yeah.
people honestly I've this statement was so hardcore. There was this guy with all this mental mental discipline strength work, and then he faced something really harsh in his life that people were like, oh shit, he got this. And his statement was, finally a worthy opponent, right? So it's just that how you're perceiving that thing. Like if you're a person who does not give up, then whatever comes to you, you will not give up. You will still keep trying. You figure this out. You figure that out. A problem solver, a person who loves to solve problems, as you read in the book, The Rocket Science. A person who likes to solve problems will always solve problems, right? You solve this problem, you solve that problem. One day
Yeah.
problems keep getting less, and then you succeed in that sense. So I feel that this framing, how you frame it, is very, very, very important. And about not feeling failure, I would say get used to it. It will always be there. Even in success, there will be failure, right? Even in failure, there will be success. 100%. Like sometimes you want to grow 50%, but you only grow 47%. You might focus on the 3% that you did not grow and call it focus, but you forget about the 47% that you grew, right? So even there is failure in success. Understand that it's always there. It's always there. You just don't have to allow it to outweigh the success or outweigh your skills or like your perception of things. Like, and one thing I know of, that's why I feel it's really important to have the right mindset and the right people and to have the right information, the right content. around you, because man, human brain is so shitty, no man, or shitty in the sense it's so forgetful of good things, and it's so focused on fear at times that. And I've spoken to you about this before, that on Monday you get the biggest promotion, right? Or this, something amazing happens to you, and on Tuesday your tire goes flat in traffic, and you're just cursing, and you're just cursing. Oh, my life is like this. This only happens to me. It had to happen today. You completely forget all the blessings and all the great things that just happened to you yesterday. Mind is as such. So you just constantly need a reminder. That's why listening to good content, listening to this podcast, right, is something good, because it keeps you reminded, right? It keeps you reminded, right? So, and I
Right.
think that's and yeah, I think that part is important. If you're listening to if you're just listening to gossip, shallow stuff, wrong people all the time, then you know what's happening,
Right.
right? But if you're listening to the right people all the time, that's why people have mentors, people have coaches, people have, they keep them on. They don't do the work for them. Do they? Do they do the
Right.
work for them? No, right? They just keep them accountable for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
work, right?
And I just to what you just said right now about the coaches and stuff. I just want to say this is one of the biggest problems facing people right now that are struggling is that they don't have an attention span to sit through something that is longer than
Hmm.
5 minutes. Like everybody expects an answer within the first minute. They expect it summarized. They expect it like spoon fed to them. Like you really expect you're gonna understand something that takes years of mastery in what, a 1 minute short. Like people genuinely believe this. Like I the amount of people who have spoken to me about my articles that I sometimes write, they're like, well, they're so long, and I'm like, well, you try to make it simple and put it in a few words that will explain to you the entire concept. No one can do it. Like it's a challenge I still put out there. Like no one can do it. So I just wanted to say that is, that's, I think, also extremely important to realize when it comes to
Hmm.
learning or
Hmm.
finding sources of new knowledge, right? Like don't look for the fastest option. It's There is a reason why it's the fastest option. It's incomplete. It'll have lots of huge gaps. But anyways, is there anything more you want to
Just
add
one
to
quick
this?
thing, that the smallest,
Yeah, yeah.
and just to kind of to conclude that, even in books, Numan, it's not the entire book that has an effect on you. It's the few sentences in those
Yes.
books that have an effect on you, and you don't know on what page number it comes on, right? In what context it
Yeah.
comes on. But it's because it's not the entire book. I don't quote the entire book. I only quote a certain parts of the book, because that's what made the difference, right? Like, or
Exactly.
else
Yeah.
or else imagine having a book with just like three quotes in it, and the book finishes, and you'll be like, huh? What? Okay. And that's what incomplete information is, right? At the end of the day. So even with books, so sorry, just going back, that having if give things time, allow things to develop, have a good understanding of all the successful people stories that you hear. Don't fall into this Instagram highlight stuff, right? Understand that what they have gone through, what how much time they have devoted before to show you this reel now, right? In that sense. So be realistic, man. Just like a little bit, don't, yeah, just don't fall into all of this stuff. And mastery, to master something, to be successful at something, there is a growth period, and part of growth period, there are two things: success and failure, repetition and feedback. And you cannot
Yeah.
just say, I'm going to take one of these out of the equation. It doesn't. Yeah.
No, you
So just
cannot.
gonna
You
go back to the
cannot.
very first point. Failure is part of the experience. Know it, understand it.
It is. It absolutely is part of the experience, and I think I just want to add um, to the same effect the question that I asked. What is that lesson or advice that
Mm-mm.
you wish to impart after having experienced failure? For me personally, the biggest one is that if you ever experience failure in your life, don't let it stop you, right? Don't let it stop you from doing anything else in life. You have to keep moving no matter what happens, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how much it sucks, no matter how much you hate it, how it shitty it makes you feel, how much you want to complain about it. You have to do something, right? You have to keep doing something because the path to the next lesson is either in your next failure or your next success, but you have to get there. So you cannot let that first failure or that 10th failure stop you. And I have been in that position where I've failed at something and I have lost all motivation, I have lost all passion, I have lost all energy to do something, because sometimes failure really kicks you and it really brings you down like a few levels, and you kind of look up and you'd be like, yeah, I think I took on more than I could take, and I'm just not ready for
Mm,
it. But and then you stop, and then one day turns into 1 week, and 1 week into a few months, and next thing you know, you're just floating through life, like just existing, which is a big problem right now for a lot of people. They're just existing, they're not doing anything with their lives. It's not that they have to, but it's also that they're not trying to understand what their passions are because of a few failures. So for me, it is that no matter what happens, come back to it again. If you have to take a break from one thing, go do something else, go fail at that. But continue doing it, continue like building that resistance to failure, continue like experimenting, because success is on one of the pages. You just
have to
have to
get there.
get
True,
there, right?
true, true.
You just have to get. So that for me was like, one of the biggest takeaway. And I think it, in my opinion, Ali, like strictly in my opinion, not trying to lead anyone anywhere, I feel that it wonderfully ties with your whole idea of that failure is an experience. And I think like it is an experience that needs to be
Hmm.
experienced many,
Hmm.
many times. It's not a one and done thing, right? It's just so complex. It's just so huge. It's such a beast. Uh, Taming it requires repeated exposure. It really does.
And
What
I
do you
agree.
think?
And I'm just gonna add one more thing. People who haven't like um this when we're talking about this quick short success, and then people think that once you get successful, that's it, right? They forget that after success
Yeah.
there's still failure after success. You have to keep success. You have to
Oh,
keep
yeah.
success living. Like you have to keep success maintained, right? Like I sometimes,
Yeah, you have to
and then
maintain it.
like
Yeah.
I just wanna say one thing, that in this world of quick going viral and stuff, right? Like where numbers and likes tell you a story. I just want you, anybody out there, right? I just want you to consider that, or even the most viral people that you know, just sometimes go take a look at their content. Okay, some of their things would have a million views or a million likes, and the one after that has 25% of it. Okay, the
Yeah.
feeling of, so to them, imagine the feeling. Yesterday they were so successful with one thing. Okay, next day they do try to do something else or the same thing, but success doesn't come with that one, right? The up and down of this entire feeling, that yesterday it was, but today it's not, right? People don't understand, like the reason I'm trying to phrase this in this way is that people think that once I hit success, then it's only success after that. No, 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 no. After success comes failure again, then success again. Then you fail again, then you succeed again. To live through this up and down continuously, it requires a mindset. It
Yeah.
requires, or else you just go viral once and you never go viral again. If you're right,
This is,
because
yeah. This is a very good point. Like, I think you really put into perspective that just because you've achieved success doesn't mean now it's
people,
permanent. Now you gotta maintain it. Hey, failure is still around the corner like a ninja waiting for
bro,
you, right? Like waiting for you to slack off, waiting for you
I,
to let off the gas. That's really a
I like
wonderful
at one
point,
point,
Ali.
Uma, there was, when this what's her name, uh, who was running against Kamala Harris, right? Right.
Kamala
She,
Harris,
she
yeah.
became a bit of a meme in YouTube Shorts and stuff, with just because of the way she would talk and laugh and stuff like that.
She laughs.
There
Yeah.
was this one, and at that
Stupid.
point there was this one person, one girl who did such an amazing imitation of her. I still remember it was a McDonald's joke, right? And she did, it was a shorts. Bro, that shorts got, I would probably upwards of 5 millions or something view. Okay. Kamala, and then she
Right.
tried a few videos after that, similar, but it was okay, still millions, not 5, 10, maybe a million. Kamala Harris's era ended. Okay. What do you think happened? to that person's. She had to,
Yeah, in my opinion, yeah, it must have faded
right?
away completely.
Now she is trying to do, she had to evolve completely. She's getting views again. But the idea was that she saw success for some time because of what was happening at that point in time, right? And imagine the up and down, Oman, from going from a 10 million shorts views to going back to 1,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 views. Hurts, hurts. It kicks you in the it kicks you in
It
the
does,
face,
yeah,
bro, right?
it
But
does.
mm,
And especially for someone that has had a million views, and then you see your shorts doing like 5 6K, and you're like, okay, my channel is done, I've completely burnt it, right? Like it's not gonna get recommend. Dude, it's a very scary prospect. Like I'm just like trying to put
no,
myself in
bro.
her shoes,
Mhm,
like going like I've never had a million views on anything in my life, right? Like anything that I have
mhm.
created for myself. But like I'm just imagining the idea, if one of my videos got a million views and then the next one gets 500, I'm gonna sit there all day with my hands in my, my twiddling my thumbs, wondering like, what did I do wrong? Like, yo, this, like, dude, that would like really send me into a like deep
Right.
depression
So,
for
no,
a bit.
and
Like,
that's
I'm
that,
not
no,
even
people who go
lying.
viral and they get lost, people who have successful movies, but then the other movie fails and they get faded away. Think of like life is as such, bro. You just need to keep, you just need to like, there are some actresses or so which see success 1 year, for 5, 10 years, they're gone, then they see success again after 5, 10 years, right? And so what were they doing in the meantime? Were they sitting crying about it, or but they were just working on more like even because we were speaking about this, even luck is in favor of people who are trying, right? You need to be in the game to have luck on your side. You need to play, you need to buy the lottery
Yeah,
in order to win the lottery, right? So you need to keep at it because the world that we live in, sometimes it happens too quick and goes away too quick. How are you going to handle that? How are you going to handle that? Tomorrow you say you want to be a YouTuber,
right.
you get viral for a bit, and then your virality goes away, and then you need to rethink your scenario, right? And then so, I don't know. It's such a vast world with such vast experiences, and people I think need to just kind of have a more realistic approach. People sometimes need to draw the curtains open, that okay, and yeah, just draw the curtains open and see that what was behind it, what that person must be going through now, right? Man, uh, people are some sports, okay? Just give an example. Some sports end for you at the age of 35. Example, right? No matter how much fame and success you had till that age, let's say you have to retire at 35
Right.
because that's the age limit for that sport, okay? You cannot continue doing that sport. What do you think happens to those people, Aman?
Dude, that's like basically every NBA, NFL, NHL player, like they get to a certain age and they're like, well, you've aged out. And then you find out that they're not even like barely mid 30s. Dude, I always imagine like this is their life,
Hmm.
right? This is something they worked for. And now, like, they're no longer considered even to be the top of
So,
their
so
sport,
even this thought of
right?
poverty and homelessness that you were talking about, is that something specific to
Dude, yeah.
a person just like any other person? Does that go for, it goes to everybody, right? Even the rich think that.
I think it goes to everybody because their skill was so
Hmm.
specialized and unique, right? This was their livelihood. Yeah, I know it pays a lot of money, sure, but their
True,
expenses are
true.
also, in proportion to that. So yeah, they would have the same fares. Dude, this is a very good perspective. So like, it's I think it's worth repeating that the fear of homelessness, the fear of poverty, the fear of like not being able to provide for yourself is not something that is just unique to people that lack the resources. You've used a very good example here.
So I think that's the thing people need to think about these scenarios and know that it's like you need to evolve, you need to grow, it's a lifelong thing. And since you understand that, there are gonna be phases of it, right? They're gonna be so that's one thing. Save for rainy days too, right? Because they will come, right? It happens even when you try to do something new. There
Yeah.
transition stages, all of this stuff remains, right? Superstars get injured, they have to stay out. What do you think they're going through? They have the Maseratis and the BMs, and they are thinking that stuff too, right? Go like, yo, how do I, you know? Huh.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think it's just, yeah, like it's putting into perspective that, the failure doesn't like differentiate. Failure is not racist or sexist. It's like it will come for you, like no matter who you are, like no matter what your age is, like
Hmm.
failure doesn't care. But I really, I'm still like just thinking about this example you gave about these athletes, right? And it sort of like really clicked inside of my head, and I'm still thinking about that person, you would consider them to be extremely successful, right? I'm not
Hmm.
wrong in saying that. These are people that are like genuinely very, very successful. Some of them are worth billions now. And I've always studied sort of like the lives of some of these players and how they've branched out into investments and running their own companies. Like 50 Cent
Uh-huh.
was
Uh-huh.
invested in vitamin water at one point, right? And so it all makes sense, that yeah, I know they have access to a lot more resources, but they also know that the lives they live are very, very short lived. Like, if I think, like, if someone as a child, they came and said to me that, listen, you're going to make millions of dollars if you get really, really good at basketball, but then you can only play it until like the age of 34, 35, right? As a young person, I would like start counting from the age that I am, be like, yeah, if I make a million a year, like I'll be set for life, right? But I don't take into account the amount of practice I have to do to get good and then even get selected. So I'm now misled by
Hmm.
dreams of like getting rich. And, that's one thing that's already waiting for me. So I have to surpass that first to even get to that barrier of like, well, I can't really be a top notch player after the age of, let's say, 35. So there's another failure waiting for me, and that hits very, very differently. That's like a very big
And
slap
yeah, and if
because
no,
it's
and if
done,
nobody's
game
telling you
over.
what to do with your money during those, because you could be after 34, you could set it up
Oh,
yourself
yeah.
that you don't have to worry, right? There's a, I'll tell you very,
Yeah.
since we talk about 50 Cent, right? In one of his last tweets, he's dissing somebody, and you know what he says? He's like, "What are you even talking about?
Yeah.
I'm, uh, I'm a three-time rich, something like that, four
I've been
time."
rich 4 times now.
So,
Yeah, he was dissing
right,
P.
okay.
Diddy's son. Yeah, I
Do
remember
you
that.
understand the underlying part? I've been four times rich, right? You see,
Yeah, it was a very
right? So you see
powerful
what he's trying. You
statement,
see what
right?
you
Like,
see what he's trying to say, right? That it's like because one thing didn't take him everywhere. The first rich didn't.
yeah,
Sometimes I was listening to this is I mean, it's so random how you can connect just like random shorts here and there sometimes. This guy called Cracks NYC, right? This gold jeweler. Right?
yeah, the
In
jeweler.
one of
Yeah,
his talks, he was or one of his interviews, he was saying that when the first time I got rich, I didn't understand. But the second time when I've got rich, I understand how to manage, so I'm doing better. You see? When the first time I got rich, I didn't know what to do with the money, so I blew it all. But now the second time I'm getting rich, I know what to do,
yeah,
so I'm doing better. So you see,
yeah.
like, right?
That's a yeah. It's such a it's such a common thing that you hear about people who suddenly become rich or become successful. They don't know how to manage their money and then they lose it all. It happens a lot with lottery winners as well. So like, this concept of like, man, this is one of my biggest like things too, is like how do you like, it's not something you
Uh-huh.
prepare for, right? Because like how do you prepare for like the idea that that on this day, on like January 25th of 2027, like I will have $1 billion in
Uh-huh.
my bank account. Sure, $1 billion have showed up. Now what? Now you need to keep it,
Yeah, bro.
right? Like you need to grow. That's a
If
whole
you
set
like
of like
if
failure
you
problems.
losing $5 on $100, right? Or losing 100,000 on a 1 billion, right? The pain, the pain, bro, the pain is there. Like, like it's not a,
The
right?
pain
So it's
is
honestly,
there.
I would just say to kind of bring it all together at the end of the day, work on yourself, work on the skills that you like, right? Or are of interest to
Yeah,
you. And I think we put out this statement in the previous one too, but I'd just like to say it again that trust your wings, not the branch, right? Even
yeah,
with people who
trust your
become
wings. Yeah,
second time rich, third time rich, fourth time rich, right? They still trust themselves that if I could do it the first time, right? I know I can do it again, but I just know what to do. Like I just didn't know what to do after, but now I know. So let me get it the second time. I'll do better. Some people don't even learn the second time, bro. You have to get it the third and the fourth time, right? But the fact is that
Yeah.
build skills and develop yourself that allows you to trust your wings rather than trusting the branch, right? So,
No, I love that. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful way to end this, and I
mm,
completely agree with you that you know,
mm,
trust your wings. You really have to, and I think it's very important, especially with failure, that you have to trust your instincts. You don't have to let it stop you. You have to keep moving forward no matter what happens. And above all else, I think everybody needs to remember that none of what we do is easy, no matter how easy it seems. There is some difficulty involved somewhere. There was some growth involved somewhere, right? That's
life, bro.
life. That's
That's
just
life.
what it is.
Mm,
I think that brings us to the end of this. I think this was a
mm.
wonderful conversation, Ali. I know we started talking about failure, but I'm hoping that all the stories that
Yeah.
we shared, that I feel like there's always these natural lessons
Hmm.
in there, right? Rather than just listing like a bunch of lessons, I find that there's these natural lessons. So I think this was a very
Hmm.
good
Yeah, me too,
conversation.
bro.
I
Mm.
really enjoyed this one.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the
Of
next
course.
one.
But you
All
take care,
right?
bud. Catch you soon,
All
man.
right, buddy. Take care.